Greetings from WorldGrowth Forums. This is Hasina Parvin, CEO and Editor-in-Chief of WorldGrowth Forums, and your host for 3 days of Virtual WGF-GBIF. Heartiest welcome to Virtual WorldGrowth Forums Global Business and Investment Forum, or as we affectionately call it, Virtual WGF-GBIF. It all started with a thought. We wanted to create an organization devoid of all negativities of any regular organization you see anywhere in the world. That call for focusing on only the positivities and minimizing or eliminating all negativities. Then we started exploring if we could expand this idea of spreading positivity throughout the world. We found that most of us wish to live in a better world or wish to create a better world themselves. However, there is no global platform of excellence for the cause. We also realized that the first step must be to bring world leaders together and start discussing and generating ideas for betterment of several ways and directions. We shared our idea with the world leaders and we'll start it rolling. These world leaders included those who have been dedicatedly working on improving things in their field of profession, industry, business, and in the process creating better societies, communities, nations, and eventually a better world. As we discussed more, these world leaders started being more involved through several of WorldGrowth Forum's platforms of excellence. We have started listing these world leaders as WGF nation builders in our WorldGrowth Forums magazine. For direct face-to-face interactions, we also initiated WGF iTalks, where we video interview world leaders and others who have been dedicatedly contributing to a better world in their own way and at their own pace, or who wish to share their ideas for creating a better world. In addition to discussions and various platforms of excellence for generating ideas, we also recognize excellence in various industries and professions through our various series of media and branding promotions. Not only various leaders of regional, national, and international prominence, but also companies, organizations, and brands of regional, national, and international prominence have trusted our platforms of excellence for media and branding promotions. The mission, vision, and agenda are to bring relevant people on one platform through several mediums and create several networks of individual to individual, collective to individual, individual to collective, and collective to collective. Today, on 7th May 2023, we are launching our first edition of Virtual WorldGrowth Forums Global Business and Investment Forum. World leaders from around the world would speak on topics of global importance during our 3-day virtual WGF-GBIF from 7th May to 9th May 2023. They would speak on education, women empowerment, humanity, economy, business, investment, growth, and so on. All discussions merging into one whole of how to create a better world. For event flow, you may please go to our website, worldgrowthforums.com, and check date and time of all keynote speeches, panel discussions, and question-answer sessions. You may also check our various social media platforms for the event flow, especially on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Please search for WG Forums or WorldGrowth Forums. Before we begin, first of all, I would like to share with you all that United Nations Secretary General, His Excellency, Mr. Antonio Guterres, has sent his best wishes to the success of Virtual WorldGrowth Forums Global Business and Investment Forum, Virtual WGF-GBIF. Several world leaders have come together to strengthen our various platforms of excellence, POEs, towards the cause of world peace and a better world through a collective perspective, including myriad individual perspectives from all corners of the world. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Anam Kumar, Managing Director of WorldGrowth Forums, to deliver his welcome speech, please.
Thank you very much, Hasina. I welcome all esteemed keynote speakers who are world leaders in their respective fields of work in their own country or in multiple other countries, and some with a worldwide influence. The learned and dignified panelists from various industries and professions, and all current and future viewers to the World Growth Forum's Business and Investment Forum, or as we affectionately call it, Virtual WGF-GBIF. The world needs leaders, guides, strong personalities, even heroes, to set a path which others may traverse for a destination of their choice. If you wish to know the difference between right and wrong, if you wish to clarify your philosophical concepts of life, if you wish to know what is right and how to work for it, for a better life for yourself and others, if you wish to know how technology, economy, business, investment, networking, education, even women power may help you in achieving personal and professional excellence, which would in turn help you lead a better personal and professional life, our esteemed keynote speakers and insightful panelists are ready to throw light. At World Growth Forums, we feel that the first step is the thought. Once you have the thought or the idea, it becomes relatively easier to gather world leaders from different countries of the world who believe in your ideas of creating a better world. And then it's easy to set a direction and take the first few steps. As more and more people believe in you and join your movement of creating a better self, better societies and communities, better nations, and eventually a better world, you begin to understand and realize your purpose in life, individually and collectively. We believe that world growth, where every individual, every society, and every nation grows with individual and collective contributions, is possible. Together, we can generate ideas. Together, we can nurture and develop those ideas. Together, we can implement those ideas. And we are sure of it because we are targeting collective growth, due respect to individual aspirations and ambitions of personal. Above all, it's possible without ceasing to be human, without the unnecessary negativities the world is currently surrounded with. What we call balance in today's life of the world is actually filled with non-essential imbalances. We have made everything excessively complex, rendering undue importance in thought, word, or deed to the unimportant. And then we so grandiosely talk about stresses and imbalance in individual and collective lives, and then in the entire world. However, if world leaders decide that it's time to put a stop to inequalities, injustices, and the so-called imbalances, it's possible. We begin with possibilities. If you believe in your heart something is possible, most probably you will do it on your own or watch someone else do it in your life. If you believe in world growth with maximum positivities and minimum or no negativities, you must join the cause World Growth Forums is working on. We believe in spreading positivities as a chain reaction in every corner of the world, to every edge of the world, and everywhere that falls in between the corners and the edges. We have created a high-level network of world leaders in several platforms of excellence, which bring together these world leaders, their ideas, and most importantly, a collection of possibilities and hopes. We believe that the first step is to come together and start discussing. When you discuss to generate ideas, when you listen to generate ideas, and when you create a formidable force working on the implementation of those ideas with a single puissant intention of creating a better world while keeping all that is human in the society and in every individual intact, something great, something extraordinary is in the offing. While staying true to ourselves, our philosophies, our beliefs, we can still create better technologies, better economy, better businesses, better avenues of investment and growth, better networking, better education, better healthcare. And that's what World Growth Forums is committedly working on. We feel we have just started. A lot is on the way. However, a lot is already evident, as would be conspicuous when all our keynote speakers and panelists talk and discuss. I welcome all esteemed participants and viewers again. I hope you all have a wonderful time for 3 days starting today. Over to you, Hasina. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anam. A lot is already evident. A lot is on the way. Together, all the world leaders can make a difference. We will committedly keep on working in the right directions and for the right causes for a better world. Now, I would like to introduce the chief guest of our virtual WGF-GBIF, Dr. Alfredo Sfeir-Younis from Chile. He would also deliver the opening speech of virtual WGF-GBIF. Dr. Alfredo Sfeir-Younis is one of the greatest personalities of his country, Chile. Though he holds a PhD degree in environmental economics from the University of Wisconsin, United States, he has an expertise in several subjects such as economy, geography, spirituality, philosophy, and above all, healing and humanity. He is the president of the Zemboling Institute for Human Transformation, which he founded in 2005, 17 years ago in Washington, D.C. He decided to open the institute after a rich experience and insightful learnings for more than 3 decades through a career at the World Bank. He started as the World Bank's first environmental economist in 1976, and later he was appointed director of the World Bank office in Geneva, Switzerland. He also served as a special representative to the United Nations and the World Trade Organization from 1996 to 1999. He regularly participated at the Commission of Human Rights as well as many international meetings on issues related to trade, globalization, indigenous rights, poverty, women and justice, both in New York and Geneva. In both United Nations and the World Trade Organization, Dr. Younis worked in the general fields of human rights, peace, and social justice. Within this broader context, he initiated and promoted policy in such areas as poverty eradication, international trade and finance, financing of development, gender and women's issues, trade and development, role of indigenous peoples, sustainable management of forestry and fisheries, water management and irrigation, desertification, biodiversity, culture, and spirituality in sustainable development and alternative medicine. He has been deservingly honored with numerous awards from international organizations, including the Lifetime Ambassador of Peace in 2001, Peace and Tolerance Award in 2002, World Healer Award in 2002, Messenger of Peace in 2002, Peace, Mercy and Tolerance Award in 2003, Supreme Advisor of the Buddhist Spiritual Forum Award, World Peace, Mercy and Tolerance Award in 2004, Diamond Peace Award in 2005, Peace Ambassador Award in 2006, and Planetary Healer Award in 2020. Dr. Younis was a candidate for the 2013 presidential election as the leader of the Green Ecologist Party in Chile. Though he lost the election with less than 3% of the total number of votes, he has won the hearts of people in Chile through his consistent work towards spreading humanity around the world and efforts towards creating a better world. Now I invite Dr. Alfredo Sfeir-Younis to deliver his opening speech, please. The topic of his keynote speech is World Peace is Paramount to All Types of Growth. What can bring humanity together for optimum global economic and social growth with justice?
Thank you very much for the invitation. This is a very important forum. This forum takes place at a crucial moment in human history, a moment when humanity lives for the first time a planetary collective society. What happens in one corner of the world affects everyone everywhere. It is vital to understand the sources of growth and sustainability in this new world. This is a moment when the term independent must be changed by the word interdependence. No country's growth prospects are independent of the other countries. This is even more relevant when a handful of countries dominate the growth possibilities of the rest of the world. In simple words, if China or India collapses, the whole planet will collapse. The big lemma today is, I am because you are because I am. We live in a moment when the planet faces a huge and maybe an irreversible ecological crisis. We are aware that the existing ecological instability translates also in social and economic instability. It is impossible to attain sustainable growth without ecological stability. We live in a moment when the constraints to economic growth are not purely technological. Today, they are ecological and biological in nature. Just think about global warming, climate change, biodiversity depletion, pollution of the air and water, the loss of natural forests, pollution of the oceans and rivers, etc. We live in a moment when our society are moving from market-based economic system and institutions to a right-based society. It is evident today the questioning of the economic calculus per se, which is being overridden by a human right-based calculus and also an ethic calculus in search for social justice and peace. This is particularly evident in countries that are seeking the welfare state. This has a tremendous implication for policy design, implementation, investment at all levels of decision-making. Here I refer to human rights in all their dimensions, the economic, social, and cultural rights, and the right to development. As I have studied in the past, I refer to human rights in all their dimensions because they are essential determinants of economic growth, capital accumulation, and stability. We live in a moment when our society faces not only instability as regards markets or other associated institutions, but also instabilities from social injustice in all their dimensions. We are even facing stability because of our inability to attain sustainable development. Sustainability in terms of economics, ecology, and social. We live in a moment when we face the weakest international institutional system to govern our global commons, our global public goods like oceans, glaciers, climate, biodiversity, peace, security, migration, ozone layer, etc. The views within the existing multilateral system are still dominated by a few countries and not by a planetary vision of our common destiny. Major reforms of these systems are needed. And we live in a moment when there is an increasing empowerment of civil society everywhere, which demands by communities and NGOs to fully participate in decision-making. The power of civil society, of course, has been greatly increased through social media and other existing means of communication. Thus, economic growth depends not only on material input, outputs, and markets, but more importantly on the stability of the existing human and social environment, including world peace and security. Economic growth is not only the capital accumulation of physical and financial capital. It really goes far beyond that. We have to include human capital, natural capital, institutional capital, cultural capital, and why not to say it here in this forum, spiritual capital. This composite of global growth needs to include people's behaviors, social demand, existing institutions, incentives, and organizational structures. I would like to say today that after World War II, the spine cord of economic growth and well-being was material prosperity to combat material scarcity and poverty. That spine cord had to be accompanied by needed financial resources to achieve such prosperity. And that's why it would justify the creation of the World Bank and the IMF. But we also said that free markets were supposed to be the engines of growth, and this justify the creation of the World Trade Organization. But let me tell to you today that the world has dramatically changed since World War II. The limits to growth and material prosperity to resolve the multifaceted problem facing our society has reached its capacity. It is not just about more matter or more material prosperity. It's about collective human welfare. It is about constructing a new civilization with a completely different spine cord. Simply said, it is far beyond traditional material economic growth. There is no doubt that economic growth is a necessary condition for this future civilization, but it's not sufficient. The beginning of a new road ahead for humanity is not only about economic efficiency per se, but it must embrace equity and social justice. The new spine cord of the road ahead is sustainable development with an empowered citizenry. This is why I dare today to declare in this audience, in this forum, that the new and only common destiny for humanity we must all aspire for is an ecological civilization. It is through this new spine cord that we will live in a peaceful, stable, and just world. I call all the world leaders to embrace the path toward an ecological civilization. The only acceptable destiny for humanity will surge from this ecological civilization. In my view, there is not another option. The leaders of this forum, particularly the youth, have to face the moral imperative linked to the construction of such a civilization. Today's paradigm of individual materialism will never let an ecological civilization bloom. This is why the non-material dimensions of life, like the realization of spiritual human values, the self-identity, the sense of belonging, are essential to this ecological civilization. The creation of this ecological civilization should take all our efforts. The leaders present here should ask themselves, what stops us from moving swiftly to an ecological civilization? What is the proper narrative for this ecological civilization? Part of the answer of why we do not move swiftly is the power and politics with regard to the ownership, access, exploitation, use, and management of our common public goods. No economic and social institutional system has successfully dealt with this yet. The Growth Forum, the World Growth Forum, is our greatest instance to do so. The World Growth Forum, for me, is our great hope to move into this ecological civilization. To move now, tomorrow might be too late. This is why I believe that we need, through this new civilization, to find the right form of planetary livelihood that we do not have today. The value of interdependence, including all expressions of life, and the value of correspondence, where we don't only look at matter, but also spirit. But let me be clear, an ecological civilization is not just about investments on ecologically enhancing programs, which of course are important. It is also about spiritual, ecological, human, economic, and social values. This new civilization must be organized around the values and belief and agreed rights and responsibilities. The values of caring, sharing, mutuality, justice, love, compassion, conservation, harmony, stability, and so on. However, all these values must be self-realized. An ecological civilization is not just about attaining some sort of physical balance, notwithstanding the importance of these physical balances like this water cycle, temperatures, and global warming. This construction of this new ecological civilization must rest on three systems of law. The governance and structure of this civilization today is only in one system of law, what I call human law. And we know today that this path, only based on human laws, has contradicted and has collapsed with the second system of law, which is the laws of nature. It's just a matter of seeing what is happening with global warming and climate change. This has to change, but we need to have a bridge between human laws and natural law. And here it comes the third, group of laws, which I call spiritual laws. Laws that surge from our human collective consciousness. Today's our collective consciousness does not possess the attributes of an ecological civilization. It's not sitting on these three systems of law, human, natural, and spiritual laws. An ecological civilization and a new consciousness need a new wisdom. We must embrace this new wisdom now. I would say that this wisdom, the essence of this wisdom, is the acceptance in theory and practice of the co-equality of all forms of life, human beings, sentient beings, and nature. This co-equality will bring a fundamental pillar of the ethics and the eco-morality within the World Growth Forum for the future. This demands a complete change in narrative and social grammar for the future. In addition, today, we need to push the limits of politics to better manage the global commons. Here, the private sector plays a very fundamental role. Global governance today is weak or non-existent, demanding a real reform of the United Nations systems and the Bretton Woods institution. The new governance must ensure a high-quality growth, development, and transformation for all forms of life. This will make possible a new eco-planetary democracy where terms and practices about economics will bring together eco-efficiency, eco-competitiveness, and eco-accounting. This eco-democracy must empower all citizens around the world through their grassroots movement and institution. And we need to move to another form of economics, which I call today care economics. If I can sum up what I have said until this moment, I would say that an ecological civilization is the only destiny for humanity. We do not need to destroy nature to do human good, which is the clash between natural law and human laws. It is the relation between nature and human consciousness which will determine the future of the human race. To talk about peace, love, compassion, wisdom, as I have done today, is not an esoteric proposition, as they are linked to the foundation and the jurisprudence of rights and responsibility. We need an enlightened way to experience reality. Otherwise, we will not take full responsibility for our actions and outcome. Those civilizations that only have human focus have failed, and we know it through human history. But I am optimistic, very optimistic, because I feel that a great civilizational change is taking place today. But this path, this transition, needs to bring into decision-making, into policy and investment decision-making, some very important eco-spiritual principles. The first one is the totality of life, in which all forms of life have inherent rights, not only human life. That we live in a world of total interdependence. We cannot do anything as an isolated island. We have to work together. We have to take care of the planet together. We must also take care of creation. We receive the planet in quantity and quality at a certain level, and we don't have the right to transfer this planet to future generations at a lower level of welfare. We do not own the planet. We might have property over some aspect of the planet, but we have the responsibility of all that exists here today. This is the only way that will respect the rights of future generations. Today, nobody has the right to destroy, not even their own private property elements of nature, humanity, and spirit. That is why I think it's so important for us today to go deep into a reflection where, if these principles are adopted, a new policy decision-making, a new debate about growth, development, sustainable development, and human welfare will come up all around the world. One of the policies is to avoid unacceptable forms of theft through unnecessary overexploitation of nature. We have to let countries to move from just market design and govern led to another form of economic and social system to implement care economics. Today, I'd like to end this presentation with just a few thoughts. First of all, as you might already understood from me, I am not suggesting a purely nature-centered paradigm. An ecological civilization is not totally founded on a nature-centered approach. Thus, the dilemma that we see today in the world that is expressed as choosing between human-centered and nature-centered approach is a false dilemma. This has to change. Our great mistake has been to separate nature and human laws from a spiritual law. We must go beyond environmental capitalism. The debate presented here is not just an economic problem, it is also an ethical and moral problem. The greatest step that will enable us, this three system of law for this future ecological civilization to operate, is to have in every constitution of the world the right to nature. To deny the right to nature is tantamount of validating irresponsible ecological behavior and environmental behavior. This is having and will have a tremendous impact, negative impact on economic growth and development. The future rests on love and mutuality. In my experience, if we do not love nature, we are incapable of loving other human beings. Mutuality and the communion with all forms of life are the fundamental scaffold for true global justice in all its dimensions. Justice must work for all forms of life. A new path demands a new consciousness. The issue is not to know more or to have more. The real issue today for humanity is to be and to become more. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alfredo, for your tremendous opening speech. Yes, the real issue for humanity today is to be and to become more, a collective more of humanity is capable of doing and achieving wonders. Let's do our best and let's wait for others to join hands and heads. Now I would like to introduce the next keynote speaker of our virtual WGF-GBIF, Dr. Mustafa Sasa from the United Arab Emirates. Dr. Mustafa Sasa is a prominent Indian business magnate, social philanthropist, a renowned corporate speaker, premium influencer, mentor, mindset and leadership coach, certified by world's #1 leadership coach, Marshall Goldsmith. Dr. Mustafa helps leaders and CEOs increase their results by working smarter in today's economy. Dr. Sasa is continuing business legacy since 1958. He is a serial entrepreneur having diverse business experience globally. He is known for his CSR work in education and water. Mr. Mustafa Sasa is chairman and managing director of Raj Group of Companies, UAE. He is chairman of Salesforce International LLC in Dubai and Sharjah Enterprises Private Limited in India. Raj Group is having presence in Dubai since 1958. Raj Group has subsidiaries and associates in India, Middle East, Europe, South Africa, and USA. Raj Group is into the business of GPS technology, building material, dispute resolution in freehold properties, herbal and cosmetics, training and consultancy, recycled products, eco-friendly writing instrument, training and consultancy, specialized in succession planning for large-size family-run businesses, general trading, and many more since last 6 decades. Now I invite Dr. Sasa to deliver his keynote speech, please. The topic of his keynote speech is "World without the guiding light of visionary leaders is a rudderless boat in the ocean. What must be the focus and vision of a world leader of today?"
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It is indeed a great pleasure and honor for me to be part of this very relevant and important topic of the Global Business and Investment Forum. Talking about the Global Investment and Business Forum, and when we talk on the global perspective, there are many things what the current leaders have to take into consideration while addressing the global issues. No issues are independent to each other in the current time, as we live in the era of shared uncertainties. Earlier, we used to live in the era of unshared certainties. Every country has its own problems and advantage. So there were unshared certainties. Then the leaders of that country knew very well what to do about their countries, and they used to take measures regarding that. Now we live in the world of shared uncertainties. When you say shared uncertainties, anything happening at any part of the globe, in any country, any district, any city, or any small village of that country can engulf the entire world. And it was very evidently known to us in the pandemic. Pandemic started from a small city in Wuhan in China, and in no time the entire world got engulfed into it. And we know everything else is in the history right now, and what the world suffered because of one event happening at one time. So as everything is correlated, and it was very well said by our chief guest, Dr. Alfredo, is that right now every country is interdependent. So we don't live in a world of sole dependency on everything. The leadership of this current era has to keep into consideration the changes and the effects happening all over the world. Right now, we are not living in the time where you need me more than I need you, or I need you more than you need me. We are all sharing the one planet. And in this era of technology and internet, the speed of the news spreading at a lightning speed, every person is aware of what is happening in every part of the world. All the problems of the world has to be globally addressed by the world leaders together. The leaders in the current era should not think of selfishness of its own country or its own region, or trying to put his own agenda in place, over and above any agenda of the world. We have to have a common agenda of the world, which is created by United Nations of 147 countries, part of it, and the 17 goals of the United Nations set for sustainability and many other parameters, which all reflects in creating a better situation for a human being to thrive. If you see Africa, few years back, it was not technologically so advanced. Things happening in Africa were only known to that own region, and many a time, even in the country, it was not known to the other parts of the country. But now, with the awareness of internet and the knowledge spread it evenly all over the world, Africa has taken a different step. The leadership of Africa has changed because the people awareness have increased. With this increased awareness, the African leadership now think of their growth and development of the African continent, which otherwise, it is an open fact that entire Africa was colonized by few countries, couple of countries rather, and all the resources of Africa were drained to that country without having any benefit to the local communities. But now no more. Every country in the Africa has realized the importance of the resources of their own country and put that resources into the development of their own community. Likewise, other countries, when we talk, like what is happening right now in the Ukraine and Russian war, it's not only a war between Ukraine and Russia. We know how the entire Europe suffered the worst winter without having the gas and without having electricity generated through gas. And first time we heard that, the power shortage in Europe. Europe considered to be as an advanced country continent, and all the countries are advanced, as a role model for other developing countries, had to face certain evitable challenges, which, on the basic survival and the basic elements of nature where they were lacked. So right now, anything happening in any part of the world, the entire world is suffering. We saw this even in the economic crisis in 2008 when the Lehman Brothers got bankrupt in US. If we say, okay, it happened in US, what has to do with our country? But no, that slowdown effect on the economy was globally spread, and every country undergone through that recession, which some of the countries are yet to come out of it. So with all these things, may it be economical, may it be medical, may it be financial, as we discussed, has to have a global perspective into place, and the leaders should always think of any policies and any implementation keeping the world the world community in large. Right now, it is not an option between local and global. It is now becoming a global. So when you see about local, so your global perspective has to address the local needs, and your local needs also have to have a perspective of the global effect, if it is going to spread or going to have a side effects of what you are doing over here. Similarly, if you see the pollution, environmental pollution, what we are talking about, and that is a topic of a discussion in the COP27, which happened in Egypt, and very relevant. It's going to be happening in the UAE in COP28 in the later this year. The environmental issues which is addressed is not addressing to any country or any region. It's a global issue. I will narrate a small story where people think that what difference does it make if I don't comply to the laws and the bylaws created on the global issues. If I am independent to do myself and violate the law or violate something personally, what effect does it make in the world? I'll tell a short story on this. Everybody knows a great king who lived in India, Akbar the Great. He was a great Mughal emperor, and he had a great advisor named Birbal. And Akbar Birbal stories are also very famous on his the advisory. Once the king Akbar told his advisor Birbal, I want to test the loyalty of my subject. Of course, at that time Birbal said, Your Highness, it is not a good idea to do. But of course, when the king insisted, he had to do. So Birbal announced in the city that our great king has been so generous and so kind to us. We want to give a gift to the king. Now, what gift we can give to the king? So he decided that we will give one well full of milk. We'll dig a well, and we will put milk into it and give this milk well full of milk to the king. Like it is said that he gave me water and I gave him, in reciprocation I gave him milk. So if the king is generous, the subject will show that reciprocation in a better way. So gifting him as a well of milk. So it was decided, since it's a perishable product, it was decided that in one night, all the people in the city will pour one glass of milk in that well, and that morning the well will be full of milk, and we will gift it to the king as a matter of gratitude from the subject. Now this was announced and one night was fixed. One wise man in the town, he thought that everybody putting a glass of milk into it, if I put a glass of water, what difference will it make? My one glass of water in that well full of milk. So he poured his glass of water in the darkness of the night in that well and went home. To the surprise of Birbal, when he opened the tap of the well in the morning, he saw it was a glass full of water. It was a well full of water. Everybody in the village thought that the same thing, that if I put one glass of water in that well, what difference will it make? So to the surprise of Birbal, he saw that the well was, instead of full of milk, it was full of water. So this is the power of anonymity and unanimity. Unanimity, we can make a glass, we can make a well full of milk. And anonymity, if I think I'll put a glass of water, what difference does it make? But if everyone thinks like this, that well will be full of water. Like that, all the leaders of the world should think in anonymity, not in unanimity of its own country. And likewise, we live in one world. And when we, with the invention of Google Maps, with the invention of internet, with the invention of satellite, now the world looks so small. In a one flight, you can take any destination from one end to another end in a world overnight. In 15, 16 hours, you can cross. So the world has shrunk. With that shrinkness of the world, the problems of the world have become common for everyone. So it is not, nothing is left to its own, or it is independent. These are all interdependent. And looking at the problems of interdependent, all the world leaders has to think about the humanity at large, not thinking about its own subject or its own region. We have seen even in one country, two regions are fighting. And it is the nature of the human being to fight, and if you want to make it, is in a humorous way, it is said that if you want a peace in the world, -1 species in the world will be in peace. And that we, in a humorous way, we call it as human beings, because human beings has a tendency to fight. We see two continents fighting. In two continents, we see two countries fighting. In two countries, we see two states fighting. Even in states, cities are fighting. In one city, neighborhoods are fighting. If nothing, two neighbors are fighting. And if nothing left, husband and wife fights in their own house. So, this is a tendency of the human being. But now, as we are all matured human beings, we should keep all the tendency aside and work for the growth and the prospect of the world in large. That's why, the global, addressing certain policies in the United Nations, it has been looked into at every corner of the world, how it's going to affect the cause and effect of it, and it has been designed. Education, if you take, earlier, if you talk about 200-300 years back, we used to go to the schools very near to our house, because the schools should be in the walkable distance. The children used to go walking. Then a few distance was okay, because they used to go on the bicycle. And then it came car. Now we see the students studying in a different cities and different countries for education. So, that effect of unanimity has been created, that we live in the world without borders, and the physical boundaries are for the governance, and geographical boundaries are for the administration. However, as such, very less things are left with boundaries. If you see, we live in Dubai, and we see that the fruits of all over the world we can buy from Dubai. We get fruits from the Brazil, we get bananas from Philippines, we get mangoes from India, and everything, all the fruits across the world are sold in Dubai. This is the power of unanimity. And with this, we share and enjoy. Now imagine if those countries producing some wonderful and delicious fruit would only think that, no, I will sell it only to my subject, only to my people in this country, then the world would remain, would not have tasted such flavors of that country. But with this, spreading, the commerce across the world, the logistics has been created across the world. With that, all the good things of the world are being shared. If you see so many good things, the wood when we use in the construction, we say it's a Chilean wood. It comes from Chile. It's on the south of South American continent. But because of the logistics and the e-commerce and the trade and commerce of the world, we are able to get the Chilean wood. So and there are endless examples of this. So keeping all these things into focus, we should leave about our petty differences, our trivial differences, and work on the mega issues which are so common, and create or work on that commonness will create a better environment. And as we see that the leadership influences across the world, if we see our Prime Minister Modi, when he goes across the world, he attracts that kind of attention, which India has spread it all over the world. So and so as the different countries, presidents and prime ministers visits across the world, they spread the aura of their country and create a harmony and peaceful environment. So many treaties are signed, so many accords have been signed between the countries to create a mutual trade and commerce, to create cross culture between the countries. As we'll again, I'll give example of Dubai. As we live in Dubai, we have all the people from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, Assam to Gujarat of India, which itself is so diverse, plus 200 nationalities who live in Dubai. And all the blend of the cross culture we find in Dubai. Dubai is a melting pot of all the cultures. Even I can tell you that in India, you go in South India, you hardly find any restaurants of North India in the South Indian part. If you go in East India, you will not find the Gujarati food over there. But in Dubai, we have restaurants from North, South, East, West India and across the world. So, this is the cross-culture benefit we have seen. I did my master's in emotional intelligence. So I'll share you one thing, which is all dealing with people. See, when you deal with the world community, culturally everybody is built different. One accent in one culture is acceptable. The same accent is prohibited in another culture. So when somebody behaves in certain fashion or certain accent, you don't think he is offending you. When you understand his culture, then you realize, no, he's culturally built like this. So knowing the cross culture across the world, we create a better harmony and better communication between the people. And so, and one of the lack of understanding what we have seen is communication. We have to open doors of communication. 95% of the problem is derived from lack of communication. So communication is not only the verbal communication. Communication is a trade and commerce is a communication. Culture is a communication. Learning different languages is communication. And so as tourism of different countries is a communication. So all these things, when we blend together, it will create a wonderful harmonious world where the leaders administrating their own country and takes into perspective the global angle of their perspective into it, will create a better environment and a better policies they can make for their own countries. Now you see every country, we hear that with this country's passport you can travel so many countries without visa. So all these are the globalization, and it's a wonderful step. And I look forward for a day where your passports are not required to travel. We live in one world, and that's one world. I don't know how long we will take, but already the first step of that long journey has been taken. And that's why, we have so many countries are offering visa-free tourists for the list of the countries. And maybe one day we will achieve this. And that time will be considered as a golden era in the human history. And we want this to come back. And I wish all the leaders of the country should think from the two angles, from their heart and mind together on deriving any policies or any legislations for their country. With this, legislation when you come out in any country, you should have a global perspective. And that's where the country blossoms out of it, and in the country and in the world. And likewise, if we have all the countries blossoming together in the same way, we feel we are in a garden, a garden of a tulip of Netherlands, or a Mughal garden in Kashmir, where you see a different flowers, in the same garden blossoming and spreading the fragrance which helps the humanity to thrive at large. I think, with this important forum and this deliberations of 3 days with great speakers in line coming in for these 3 days, it will create certain proceedings for world leaders to adopt and take certain decisions, from learnings from this conference. And I wish all the audience of this forum very best of luck, and all the forums I feel as a one countryman together in this endeavor of creating a better world. And many thanks to World Growth Forum for having this topic and having this this forum for 3 days, and inviting all the thought leaders of the world from different perspectives, from the different fields and different knowledge streams, giving their perspective on the globalization, which will create a roadmap for the world leader, and hopefully for the United Nations to follow on it and create a better world we live. With this, I end my talk and look forward to hear from the connoisseurs who are going to follow in these 3 days, and learn from them a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sasa, for a wonderful keynote speech. Now, I would like to introduce the next keynote speaker for our virtual WGF-GBIF, Dr. Amita Srivastava from India. Professor Amita Srivastava is presently holding positions of the director at Brancis Center for Research Training and Consultancy, BCRTC, Ghaziabad, India. She is throughout gold medalist, and she is a well-known expert in management philosophy, strategic management, human resource development, quality systems, and human values. She has worked for 20 plus years in areas of research, training, consultancy, teaching, and administration in management. She had conducted many FDPs and MDPs. She had done assignments for some leading institutions of national and international repute like IIML, UNIDO, Central Defense Academy, Syndicate Bank, IBA, Semiconductor Complex Limited, ABCL, Kirloskar Brothers, Jaipur Stock Exchange, etc. She was chief editor for management journal Attitude. She has organized many national and international conferences, seminars, conclaves, and workshops. She has widely experimented with new approaches to learning and creativity. She had helped many SMEs to organize the structure and processes of the organization, institutionalize innovative methods of work, and indicate healthy organizational culture. She was instrumental in turnaround of many SMEs. She had successfully experimented in using Indian thoughts in management policies. She had held many responsible positions in leading management institutions. She is also holding honorary positions as a prime facilitator at Spandan, foundation for human values in management and society. She has received many awards and accolades for her work in management science. She had been jury member of various academic competitions conducted by management schools. She is involved in board of studies of leading management institutions and universities. She is in advisory panel of prestigious the Center for Applied Social Sciences Research, CASSR. She is an active member of various professional groups like Ghaziabad Management Association, Higher Education Forum, Management Teacher Consortium, Punjab Management and Commerce Education, Worldwide Management Consultants, Professors in Management Studies, HR and Talent Management Executives, and Harvard Business Review. Now I invite Dr. Amita Srivastava to deliver her keynote speech, please. The topic for her keynote speech is "The world can't grow sustainably without women empowerment. Should women wait for the empowerment to materialize, or should women work for it?"
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to speak with you today on the topic of women empowerment. Firstly, I wish to thank World Growth Forum for inviting me to deliver keynote address. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru once famously said that if you educate a man, you educate an individual. However, if you educate a woman, you educate a whole family. Women are the backbone of every society, and it is essential that we recognize the critical role they play in shaping the world we live in. Empowering women is not only the right thing to do, but it is also the smart thing to do. Studies have shown that when women are educated and financially independent, they invest more in their families and communities, leading to better health, education, and economic outcomes for everyone. If we trace down the history of Indian culture, we would find in ancient India, women played significant role in various aspects of society, including political, social, and religious. Although women's status varied based on their caste and social position, they had the right for education, inheritance, and property ownership. Yatra naryastu pujyate ramante tatra devata, yatra astu na pujyate sarva astrata aplaha kriyaha. This is taken from Manusmriti 3.56, which translates into where women are revered, the god dwell, and where they are not, all actions remain unfruitful. Women's empowerment was visible in the Vedic period 1500 BC to 500 BCE, where women had equal access to education and some of them became respected scholars and teachers. Women also participated in religious rituals and had a say in family matters. In the Mahabharata, Draupadi was a strong and assertive woman who fought for her rights and stood up against injustice. During the Maurya period, 321 BCE to 185 BCE, women played significant role in the administration of the empire. For example, Emperor Ashoka's daughter, Sanghamitra, was responsible for spreading Buddhism in Sri Lanka. In the Gupta period, 320 CE, from 320 CE to 550 CE, women were actively involved in literacy and artistic purists. The famous poetess Lobmudra was the wife of sage Agastya and a renowned scholar in her own right. After the later Vedic period and later with foreign invasion, things started deteriorating and got worsened. Few laws were made at the time of British period and major work done on women empowerment after independence in India. However, we still have a long way to go in achieving gender equality. Despite progress in recent years, women still face significant barriers to equal opportunity, such as unequal pay, limited access to education, and healthcare and gender-based violence. Rosa Luxemburg rightly said, "Women's freedom is the sign of freedom." Reinforcing the popular saying, if they don't give you a seat at the table bring a folding chair. Refugee turned model Halima Eden became the first Miss Minnesota contestant to compete in a hijab and continues to do so in a successful modeling career around the world. She said, I empower women by staying true to myself and also encouraging them to go out and not be scared to be the first. If you don't see yourself represented in any given field, take it upon yourself to be the one. The ex-Prime Minister of New Zealand did just that because she became the first serving leader of a country to go on maternity leave, proving that having children should never hold you back in any career. I hope I empower women by being both a prime minister and a mother, said Jacinda Ardern. Being first takes courage, a quality the first female U.S. Secretary, a state Madeleine Albright, wanted to instill in the future generation, imploring women to have confidence in themselves and work hard. As far as access to education, there have been prejudices to give education to the women. Hiba Hamzi supports education activities in developing countries. She is working to ensure that Syrian refugee girls in Lebanon have access to go to school. For many displaced Syrian women, education is the key for a better future, but not always easy to access. Through Hamzi's organization NABA, Developmental Action Without Borders, she hosts workshops to educate girls about their rights and educate parents about discriminatory cultural beliefs and the risk of child marriage. Halfway across the world in Tanzania, Rebecca Gyumi is also working to end child marriage. The lawyer and girls' rights activist petitioned the government to end child marriage for girls younger than 18 and 1. A firm believer that girls should be in school at 14 and not married off. She is working to change attitudes in rural areas and empower women to stand up for their rights. Her work has won many international recognition. In 2018, she was awarded the UN Human Rights Prize. I'm empowering women through STEM educating to become the next generation of great leaders through science and technology, says Afghani teenager Fatima Qadrian. She is the captain of her country's all-girls robotic team and is advocating for access to education for girls all over the country while breaking stereotype of what are typical areas for girls to achieve. Equal pay have been always a challenge for the women. For education to equal pay, women are taking a stand and demanding action. I empower women every day by pushing for equal pay for equal play. CNN chief international correspondent Christine Amanpour says, adding she tries to show girls and boys that we must all be feminist because feminist only means equality and equal. Big wave professional surfer Keela Kennelly is paving a way for women by demanding access to competition dominated by men and demanding the same pay. A member of the community for equity in the women's surfing, CEWS, she helped lead a vocal campaign for the addition of women's division in the Mavericks Challenge Big Wave contest in Half Moon Bay, California. Once admitted, they subsequently turned into fight to equal pay. Their consistent lobbying paid off when the World Surf League announced they would offer equal prize money to men and women at all level of WSL contest in 2019. Judge Rosemary Aquilina presided over the sentencing of former USA gymnastic team Dr. Larry Nassar. Convicting on numerous accounts of sexual abuse, Aquila shot to international fame by giving Nassar's victim an opportunity to testify in open court, a move she believed would give them their power back. She shared that empowering women by listening, believing, and telling them they matter, adding that we need to take it upon ourselves to change the way we think. Changing attitude is exactly what Katie Harwich is trying to do, the founder of What Want Women Against Negative Talk. She says, I empower women by helping them shift their self talk habit from negative to positive. Model and activist Adova Abroa, in working, to, in working to provide a safe space for young women through her foundation Girls Talk, she addresses issues for mental health and sexuality, topics she says don't receive enough attention. Girls Talk started with Aboha sharing her story in 2015 after a failed suicide attempt. She talked openly and honestly about her struggle with mental health, bipolar disorder, and addiction. Aranya Johar is an Indian poet who uses social media to advocate for gender equality, mental health, and body positivity. Her spoken words performance, A Brown Girl's Guide to Gender, went viral in 2017, while more than 1 million views in the first 2 days. Breaking stereotype, the women as they are thought of by the society, the way women see themselves in a topic gaining traction all over the world. Women are teaching and preaching acceptance and self-love, giving women new confidence in themselves and who they authentically are rather than trying to fit into some mold society had set for them. Pretty much my whole life, I've been told I don't have the right body type to be successful in any entertainment industry, let alone dance, says hip hop dancer Amanda LaCount, who has defied all the no's she was given to make it in the dance industry. I've just been proven them wrong ever since. Through taking up yoga and at her journey on Instagram, body positivity activist Stanley has proved that yoga is for everybody, every shape, every size, and every color. She used yoga as a personal platform to work through both spiritual and physical issues and empowered thousands in the process, changing the stereotype of who or what yoga should be. TL Switch, as Erika Arma Bra Bulu Tandoa is popularly known, may only be 11 years old, but she is always won awards as a DJ despite her age and gender. Just last year, she traveled outside her home of Ghana for the first time to come to the New York to play in front of a gathering of world's leader at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. In addition to her love of music, she shares that she wants to be a gynecologist when she grows up because women got to help women across the spectrum, from women demanding access, fighting for equality, carving their own paths, and standing up for their beliefs. Women around the world are inspiring each other to claim their rights, make others stronger, and set up an example for future generation of girls to come. To achieve true women empowerment, we need to focus on several critical areas. Firstly, we need to ensure that all women have access to education so that they can develop their full potential and contribute to society. Secondly, we need to create an environment where women can participate fully in the workforce and receive equal pay for equal work. Thirdly, we need to eliminate gender based violence and discrimination both in the workplace and in the society as a whole. We need to empower women to participate fully in our political process and decision making at all levels. Women's voice must be heard in matters that affect their lives, families, and communities. From women fighting to end child marriage in Africa, to women demanding equal pay, to women teaching other women to love their bodies regardless of shape, color, or size, women are empowering women all over the world. It is a long journey, and women have to pave their own way. In conclusion, women empowerment is not just a moral obligation, it is a critical step towards creating a better world for all. We must work together to ensure that every woman has the opportunity to realize her full potential and contribute fully to society. I would like to end my speech with a quote by Michelle Obama. There is no limit to what we as women can accomplish. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amita Srivastava, for your powerful keynote speech. Now, I would like to introduce the next keynote speaker of our virtual WGF-GBIF, Dr. Aftab Kamal Pasha from India. Professor Pasha holds BA and MA degrees in Middle Eastern Studies and Political Science from Mysore University, Karnataka, India. MPhil and PhD in International Studies from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, India. He has previously taught as lecturer at the Center of Western Asian Studies, Aligarh Muslim University, India. He has been a research fellow at the Faculty of Economics and Political Science, Cairo University, Egypt. He joined as Research Associate Gulf Studies Program, CWAAS, CIS, JNU in 1987, was appointed as Assistant Professor in CWAAS, SIS, JNU in 1988, as Associate Professor in 1995, and Professor in the above center in 2003, where he has served as Chairperson and is ex-Director, Gulf Studies Program and UGC Area Studies Program at Center for West Asian Studies, School of International Studies, JNU. He held this post for 5th time since 1997. He has also served as Associate Dean at SIS, JNU during 1999 and 1999 to 2002. He has served as a diplomat and posted as First Secretary and Director, Maulana Azad Center for Indian Culture, Embassy of India, Cairo, Egypt, on deputation from JNU to Ministry of External Affairs, MEA, and Indian Council of Cultural Relations, ICCR. His research, training, and writing focused on West Asia and North Africa, and he is the author, editor, or co-editor of over 24 books in India, Gulf, West Asia, and North Africa. His most recent books are India and the Gulf Region, Maritime History, Trade, Security, and Political Reforms, India and the GCC States, Historical, Geographical, and Strategic Perspectives, and India's Political and Foreign Relations with the Gulf Regions. He has contributed research chapters to over 75 edited books, and his most peer-reviewed research articles, over 100, have been published in several well-known Indian and foreign journals. He has successfully supervised over 50 MPhil or PhD dissertations, theses at JNU. He serves on the editorial boards of many national and international journals, including International Studies, Journal of South Asian Studies, Journal of Arabian Studies, UK, Political and International Research, Tehran, Journal of Strategic Studies, Bahrain, Academic Board, Gulf Research Center, Dubai, UAE, and member International Advisory Board, Alternatives, Turkish Journal of International Relations, Istanbul, Turkey. He is Chairman, Board of Studies, Department of International Relations, Maharaja's College, University of Mysore, India. He is Board of Studies member at Center for Conflict and Peace Studies, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. He is ex-chairman, Board of Studies, Center for West Asian Studies, and member, governing body of the Chair for Maritime Studies and Research, Calicut University, Kerala. Member, Board of Studies and CASR, SIS, Academic Council and University Court, JNU. Ex-member, Board of Studies, Center of West Asian Studies, Aligarh Muslim University. Ex-member, Academic Council, Jamia Hamdard, New Delhi. Member, Board of Studies, Center for West Asian Studies, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. Executive Committee member, Indian Association for Central and West Asian Studies, Academy of Third World Studies, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. Member Research Board, Center for Peace Studies, New Delhi. Member Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis, New Delhi. Ex-member Board, ex-member Board of Studies, Center for Minorities and Dalit Studies, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. Member, UGC Area Studies Program Review Committee. Convener, Academic Committee on Central, West Asia and Balkans, Institute of Objective Studies, New Delhi. He has traveled to all Arab countries, Israel, Iran, and Turkey, and over 20 other countries for academic work since 1984. He has been to the Middle East Institute, National University of Singapore, and as senior Fulbright professor to the St. Cloud State University, Minnesota, USA, under the Fulbright Visiting Specialist Scheme. He has lectured in more than 30 countries on 4 continents and in over 75 Indian universities, research institutes on subjects related to West Asia and North Africa and India's foreign policy. He has been visiting guest professor at Pondicherry University and several other universities in India and abroad. He is a frequent commentator, analyst on international affairs, especially on India's foreign policy or West Asian and North African WANA issues for radio and TV in India and abroad, and in print media. His opinion pieces have appeared in several Indian and Gulf newspapers. Now, I invite Dr. Pasha to deliver his keynote speech, please. The topic of his keynote speech is World Peace is Paramount to All Types of Growth. What can bring humanity together for optimum global economic and social growth and with justice?
Here, I'm speaking from Dallas, Texas, in the United States, where I'm here for some important work. I'm extremely pleased to be associated with the World Growth Forum's Global Business and Investment Forum. They've chosen a very appropriate topic for this year's conference on world economy, world social and growth opportunities, international relations, and how to create a better world for all. As I said, the topic is so appropriate. The world is going through a very difficult period. It's in transition, and very important structural changes are taking place, in my view, in anticipation of the multipolar world, which one is expecting in view of the experience since the end of the Second World War. We had the liberal democratic order led by the United States, Europe, and we have been through the Cold War phase and the post-Cold War phase, and the geopolitical changes which have taken place after the end of the Cold War, the disintegration of the Soviet Union. Since then, we have seen multiple wars, interventions, and so on and so forth. The world is now grappling with 2 issues. One is how to repair the damage done to international relations, international cooperation, and how to revive the world economy after the COVID pandemic, and accelerate the world social and growth opportunities so that people living in different parts of the world who have suffered and endured the COVID and the earlier recession, how to lead better lives. I have delineated 10 points. If I can take 1 minute for each, although one would have loved to discuss in detail. But in my view, these 10 are the centerpieces for creating a better world. At the top in my list is improving human relationships. We need at this moment greater cooperation, greater interpersonal relationships, and across the borders within the societies. This is fundamental, because what has happened is due to internet and social media, people have stopped interacting with each other, and the human relationships are under a cloud. So the fundamental need is to go back to people relationship within the family, within the society, within the states, and across the states. It is paramount that people should interact much more intensively, so that more cooperation can be thought of. The second point is more compassion towards other forms of life and culture. We have seen of late, after the pandemic, where people, hundreds and thousands and millions have died, who are in post-pandemic traumatic conditions. We need compassion towards them, and also in the broader context of globalization and movement of people, we need greater understanding and greater cooperation and compassion towards people coming from other cultures, because many wars have dislocated people, displaced people, and they have migrated, for example, from Africa, from the Arab world to Europe, to America, and to the all known parts of the world, to different cultures, different societies, different religious, ethnic groups. So there is tension in the adjustment, in the amalgamation of people. So we need different types of understandings in different societies. The third one is justice and equality. We have been talking about people who are suffering under colonial rule, under very unequal systems, whether it is the Palestinians who are still suffering because of a lack of homeland, or many other people who are oppressed and suppressed in different parts of the globe. They are looking for justice, and we need to address the issue of justice either through the United Nations or through international bodies which are earmarked to look into this aspect. So giving justice to people who have been denied justice for long is an important part for creating a better world. Equality also is equally important, whether it is social equality or economic equality. We need to address this issue. The United Nations had talked about new international economic order way back in 70s, but nothing came out of it. The World Trade Organization also talks about equal trade partners and free flow of trade, and lowering of the tariffs and customs duties, so on and so forth. But still, some countries are becoming richer at the expense of others. So the poorer countries are being left behind in terms of trade, and it is fueling inequality in societies, which leads to tension, stress, and sometimes violence, which we have seen in many countries because of the loss of opportunities for growth. So equal distribution of resources also is important in the context of bilateral trade, multilateral trade, and the international institutions have to look into this aspect of poverty, which is growing in the world of 8 billion plus people, because many countries which became independent from the European colonial powers, they still suffer widespread poverty and inequality. The fifth one is peace everywhere. We need peace very badly because of the several wars, civil wars, interventions, which we are seeing, whether it is present Sudan or Syria or Palestine or Iran or earlier Afghanistan, or many wars, border wars in Africa, or even in Europe, the present Ukraine war, which has devastated lives for millions in Europe and driven people as refugees to many other countries in the world. All of these issues push the idea of peace, working for peace as paramount to establishing a just society. It is important in the context of creating a better world, because the United Nations, which is charged with the primary responsibility of maintaining peace, many times has failed in preventing big powers from initiating wars or invading countries without its authorization, like it happened in Iraq or elsewhere. So peace is essential, and diplomacy is the cornerstone, just as now China has used its diplomatic clout to bring about peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran. This needs to replicate it to India and Pakistan, or China and India, or China and the United States, or Europe and Russia. All of these initiatives need to be taken very seriously so that there is enduring peace in the world. Along with peace, it is essential that we address the issue of disarmament, especially of nuclear weapons, which have been accumulated and piled up by major powers like the United States, Russia, China, and the other Britain and France, including. We also have a small nuclear capability, but it fades into insignificance compared to the hundreds and thousands of nuclear warheads the superpowers, the great powers have accumulated. So disarmament, both in nuclear and conventional arms, is a prerequisite for world peace. Unless this is addressed, the proliferation of nuclear weapons and also the quest for nuclear reactors, even those which have huge energy resources to arm themselves with nuclear weapons, is frightening, considering the fact what is happening to Iran, or what is happening in the Gulf countries, or even Turkey. All these countries are in a mad rush to start the nuclear program, and this the origins and genesis of this quest for nuclear weapons is the insecurity these countries feel. Because since 1979, the Iranian Islamic government feels threatened by the United States, by Israel, by other countries. So it wants to acquire nuclear weapons to safeguard its national security. Just as India was threatened and invaded by China and by Pakistan, it went nuclear way. So in the same way, many more countries are opting for the nuclear option because of the threat by stronger powers in the neighborhood, or supported by external powers. So disarmament, both in the nuclear and conventional area, is extremely important for creating a better world for all. Along with this also is the need to prevent wars. There should be a wide-scale no wars campaign, because the supply of weapons has become a major business for major arms-producing countries, whether it is Russia or America or China or Israel or Europe. These countries have established huge weapons industries, and the owners, the kingpins of these industries want to create unstable situation and promote wars which are detrimental to societies in order to gain or make profit from these wars, which have become an anathema to world peace. Then the related requirement is democracy. We need more democracy and less authoritarian shapes or dictatorships, because democracy is the best method of governance most people in the world have come to realize, because that allows for dialogue, discussion, and more space for civil society, for NGOs, and periodic change of governments peacefully. So in that way, the democratic form of government is most suitable from the very ancient times in Greece, and India and other parts, people have experienced and benefited and prospered because of cooperation, because of communal harmony, because of sharing of resources, achievements between different peoples. So democracy is extremely important for creating a better world in which all would live peacefully and harmoniously. Then protection of environment also is becoming equally important because of the long droughts, because of the unseasonal rains, floods, tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes. You name the natural calamities which are devastating large parts of the world in Latin America, in Europe, in Africa, in Asia, in America. All of these places are being affected by this climate change and warming up of the climate due to pollution, due to high industrial growth, urbanization, so on and so forth. And the major powers are reluctant to commit for early tackling of the climate change issues, whether it is America or China or other countries. And this needs to be taken up at the bottom level from the schools. Children and kids need to be sensitized about the need to protect our environment where enormous harm is being done. So on a war footing, this issue of environmental protection and the damage done by climate change needs to be sensitized and made compulsory and widespread. And equally important is the non-discrimination. We have seen widespread discrimination in societies, whether it is in the American society here, the blacks feel discriminated in many fields, or minorities in different parts of the world, or because of color, because of race, because of religion, because of gender, where women suffer a lot in many countries. So this all types of discriminations are needed to be tended or tackled so that a better world, a more harmonious world is created. And the last but not least, for all of these above issues which I have delineated, the youth should be the driving force to take up this, because it is their future which is involved. I have seen in many countries very talented, accomplished youth who have achieved high degrees with hard work. They are unable to marry, they are unable to get jobs, they are unable to buy a house, they are unable to lead normal lives which are expected from youth. And they get frustrated and they get radicalized, they get extremist views and they join extremist groups. And that is how instability, frustration creates a wrong environment. And the elders also have to sensitize them about the need for patience, about the need for the right kind of approach for growth, whether it is economic growth or political growth or for their career. So all of these issues need to be addressed in a proper way. But the topic also deals with international relations. Let me briefly attend to some of the major challenges which we are facing. Our attention is mostly focused on the Ukraine conflict in the military situation. And Russia is not only facing, the Ukrainians and the Russians are not only facing the military situation through tanks, through airplanes, and through soldiers, but Russia is also facing financial war. Most of the gold and foreign exchange of Russia has been frozen. Russia has no access to this. And the liberal democratic order wants to use the Ukraine war to punish Russia. And China is taking the initiative to negotiate a peaceful settlement But the Western liberal order detest the coming together of Russia and China along with the BRICS for a multipolar world. It has become very clear in the 21st century that the old order led by the United States and Europe has become unequal, and it is no more workable because of the domination by the West and the rise of the East, led by China, by Japan, by India, Russia, and other countries. They want equal share in the order where institutions like IMF, World Bank, and others are dominated. And the West has used sanctions to suppress the other countries from emerging and having proper share. And these sanctions, which have been imposed on many countries, there's a long list from now Russia to China to Iran to North Korea to earlier Iraq, Libya, and a host of other countries. And the US Secretary Allen recently said that US-China confrontation is in fact a reality. But she wants US to cooperate with China, but wholly and exclusively on the US terms. So she expects China to play to today's international rules, which are dictated by the United States and Europe. Whereas these countries want change in the game of the rules set by the West, which demands that the rules-based order has to be respected by China and Russia. But these two major powers, Russia and China, are challenging the so-called rules-based order, which no one has seen. So the Western economic approach is based on the basis that the ultimate measure of a society is its level of consumption. I have seen here, since I'm here in the United States, the consumption of resources here is so unequal to other parts of the world, whether it is diesel or petrol or gas or the wood which is used to construct most of the houses. In Asia and other parts, they use bricks and cement and concrete, but here it is wood. And this wood is procured from the Amazons, from Latin America, from Africa, from all known parts of the world. So there is this insatiable demand for wood and cutting down of trees affecting the environment. So this approach that level of consumption has to be the basis to measure the growth of a society is fundamentally flawed. And it is actually, it should be based not on what the society can buy or consume, but what it can make or produce. That is value arising from a real self-sufficient economy. Economies like China, like India or Russia or Iran or Japan, they base their progress in creating wealth and creating productivity, and not so much on consumption as it is based here in US and Europe. So the Western policy is flawed and it is self-defeating. And China has successfully used the party dictatorship, as we know, for the development of a market economy. So the Chinese have succeeded in ending large areas of poverty in their country by economic development through party dictatorship. So in that way, the other countries also are aiming for this kind of end to poverty. And the West wants to see Russia militarily defeated and financially collapse, and there is political anarchy in Russia, like soon after the end of the Cold War, like during the Yeltsin era. But what is important to remember is even though they have put sanctions on Russia, but it is the Western banks which are collapsing. In the United States, in Britain, and Switzerland, and Germany, these banks are collapsing. So you can see the reason why they are collapsing, because of the lack of trade, because of trade barriers, because of sanctions, because of economic problems created by the West. So in that way, dollar also Many countries are leaving for bilateral trade, like Russia and China using their own currency, or India and Russia, or Iran and China. So all of these countries, BRIC countries or BRI-related countries, or many third-world countries, are abandoning dollar in favor of local currencies for bilateral trade because of the US sanctions, because of the Western stranglehold on the financial system. So last 2 points, what is important in my context is the rise of Asia and the upholding of the Asian values has become paramount because of the large population in India, China, and Asia. And this is clashing with the Western cultural traditions, which is based on consumption, which is based on different values. So the Asian values of strong family, bonded together, the institution of marriage, the cultural traditions, the mores, the customs, the local music, cuisine, justice and honor, respect for parents, all of these are fundamental. But these have virtually collapsed in the Western societies, and all this has impacted the dynamic aspect of the society. The population, young people are no more interested in marriage, no more interested in having children or family in America or Europe, with the result, and also their economic policies have become flawed. Because they are unable to export because of high cost of production, because they cannot compete with goods made by China and other Asian countries. With the result, poverty is rising even in the United States, where almost 30 million low-income people are on the edge of hunger cliff. As a portion of their federal food assistance is taken away, small businesses in US are filing for bankruptcy at a record rate. Private bankruptcy filings in 2023, this year, for 4 months have exceeded the highest point during the COVID, while at the same time 100 biggest US companies, trading companies, make record profits. And also due to COVID and other issues, the World Bank has estimated that nearly 700 million people were pushed to poverty by 2020, and 80%, almost 560 million in India. So due to global extreme poverty, levels have increased nearly 10% in most of the countries. And even in the UK, poverty is increasing rapidly due to the high living cost, and high energy cost. So in that way, poverty is also increasing due to the flawed economic policies pursued by the Western countries, which are being challenged by Russia and China. And interestingly, the Bank of England's chief economist, Hugh Pill, he very aggressively said that people should accept being poorer. This is a very unusual statement made by an economist who wants people to accept being poorer. Nobody in the world would like to be poor. And Rob Capito, the founder of the fastest growing financial institution, BlackRock, he said last year that a very entitled generation who have never had to sacrifice would soon have to face shortages for the first time in their lives. BlackRock, as you know, made 26 trillion by 2021, and it has become the largest financial company in the United States. So millionaires are becoming billionaires, and billionaires are now accumulating trillions. During the COVID period, 8 to 10 trillions have been accumulated by these large companies. With the result, inequality is spreading, and you have poverty increasing even in the richer countries, whether it is America or Europe. More and more people are facing very dire condition. People cannot afford expensive housing. They cannot afford to send their children to schools, colleges, or the rising cost of food. Inflation is raging even here in the United States and Europe and elsewhere. So in that way, we need to work to revive the world economy and to bridge the gap, social disparity, and create growth opportunities, and work for better international relations, for a better world. And this needs and calls for the 10 points I've delineated. And I look forward to interaction with the other members in this forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pasha, for your well-researched and intense keynote speech. Now, I would like to present to you my question-answer session with Sir Roger Douglas, which we recorded earlier. Sir Roger Douglas is the former Finance Minister of New Zealand. Today, I am in talk with Sir Roger Douglas from New Zealand. He is the former Finance Minister of New Zealand and no doubt a living legend. He restructured New Zealand's economy in 1980s. His economic policy is worldwide renowned as Rogernomics. During this interview, I would cover all aspects and contributions of his political life. Throughout his life, he remained a dedicated economist, a politician, and a minister who consistently made efforts towards creating a better New Zealand and consequentially a better world. Sir Roger, we will cruise through our conversation with a session of questions and answers. My job would be to collect various colors and shades from your life in the form of known and unknown facts and insights, and your personal recollections and observations during your various stages of life. Then, with the help of these colors, I will paint a beautiful portrait of yours for our viewers. Before I would start with our session of questions and answers, Mr. Adam Greenwell, my dear friend and World Growth Forum's advisor in New Zealand, would introduce Sir Roger for this special WGF iTalks with Sir Roger Douglas. At this moment, I would also like to thank another friend of ours, Miss Alicia Thompson. Alicia has been ever helpful and supportive of Adam Greenwell's efforts in the planning and execution of this special WGF iTalks with Sir Roger Douglas. Alicia has been consistently mentioned for her help and support by Adam in his Auckland Walking series every month in World Growth Forums magazine. Let's move on to Adam's introduction for Sir Roger Douglas. Over to you, Adam.
Warm greetings from New Zealand. I'm Adam Greenwell, New Zealand advisor to the prestigious and illustrious World Growth Forums magazine and multimedia platform. It's my pleasure and honor to introduce a gentleman who is not just a leader in the realm of economics and finance within New Zealand, having been the architect of reforms that are regarded as one of only 20 turning points in our history since New Zealand was discovered. But Sir Roger Douglas is also regarded as a world leader in economic management, public policy management, and as the author of the most successful economic reforms of the 20th century. However, as many people will tell you in New Zealand, and Sir Roger Douglas will tell you himself, these reforms and these initiatives did not come without sacrifice or cost, and because of those sacrifices and costs, there have been misinterpretations over the years, misrepresentations over the years. Madam Hasina Parvin, the editor-in-chief, and I have allowed Sir Roger Douglas an enormous global platform to tell the definitive story himself of his legacy, in addition to my own writings as the result of a meeting with Sir Roger Douglas in Auckland and the feature article in the World Growth Forums magazine, the cover story. Sir Roger Douglas has always been about assisting the poor. I am wearing this tau cross. Indeed, I was admonished for not wearing it by the Vice Minister General of the Secular Franciscan Order, an 800-year-old order set up by St. Francis himself, for whom the Pope is now named. I'm wearing this tau cross for two reasons. The first is that Pope Francis declared to the youth of the world that we should take a preferential option for the poor and look at the concept of sustainability in broader terms. The second reason is that 800 years of membership of the Secular Franciscan over time means reporting to the Vatican directly rather than to our respective archdioceses and dioceses within the Catholic Church. That means that this interview is going to the higher echelons of the Vatican, of the Catholic Church, to all leaders within the Catholic Church, and also to the Secular Franciscan Order itself, 1 million people around the world, one of the largest lay orders within the Church. And in addition to that, the Pope has started an initiative called the Economy of St. Francis. As you will find out today, Sir Roger Douglas has had a preferential option for the poor himself for a very long time. His economic policies have been about the end user. Because of that, he's been misinterpreted as taking a preferential option for the rich, because many wealthy people, and indeed opposing political forces, have praised him as our best ever finance minister. While there is substance in that view, I want to take the proposition that Sir Roger Douglas has been upholding Labour Party principles and objectives in the truest sense by making the needs of the most marginalised, the needs of the weakest, and the needs of the vulnerable his focal point for economic policies. He has come from Labour Party stock. He was a third-generation Labour Party MP, and indeed his forefathers were involved in the creation of New Zealand's welfare state. So without further ado, let the man himself speak. Peace and blessings to everyone concerned. And we hope that as a result of the outcomes of this dialogue, that we will lead to a better world and society emanating in and from New Zealand. Best wishes.
Thank you very much, Adam, for the wonderful and very impactful introduction. You are the perfect person to introduce Sir Roger for WGF iTalks with Sir Roger Douglas. We also appreciate your involvement and efforts towards a better society and a better world, individually and organizationally through World Growth Forums. Sir Roger, please allow me to carry on our conversation. I would now like to ask you the first question, please. Sir Roger, it is not as widely known that you were instrumental in both the setting up of Te Puko Tara Community Center and the Otara Market as a local MP in the early to mid 1970s. It could be argued that your vision for New Zealand's prosperity is an extension of that experience. The community developing facilities for future generations and feeling good about it. Not because they are being told to feel positive and hopeful, but because they genuinely do feel good about their accomplishments. Would you agree with the perception?
Yes, I would, broadly speaking. I think just to give you a little bit of background, in the 1970s, when this project started, Otara was probably the poorest part of New Zealand. So you need to think about that as a background. The idea for the formation of this centre really came from the students at the local high school. They were a group of fourth formers, around about 14 years of age, most of them. And they were looking for somewhere they could go with their friends and enjoy activities, etc. And the local teacher at the high school invited me to go along and to meet and to listen to these youngsters to present their ideas. And I sort of went away and thought about it and thought, well, why can't we actually do this? And so I talked to some of my colleagues in the government of 72, 75, and it was agreed that the government would fund the initial part of the program and put forward about 250,000 New Zealand dollars, which was quite a lot of money in 1973. The local council put in the same amount, and that left quite a considerable amount of money to be raised by the young people. And that's really when they started to shine and to get involved. The Auckland Star, which was New Zealand's leading afternoon paper, took an interest in their activities, and they went about trying to raise the balance of the money. And it was quite interesting exercise because they went out into the factories, talked to workers about their dream, and were at the same time asking them for money. When the workers sometimes continued to play their cards, they sort of realized what maybe the teachers had to put up with when they played around in class. But in any case, we managed to raise sufficient money to build the centre, and you could see the development. This was the first time that some of these youngsters had been listened to. It was the first time they individually had that sense of achievement, which is so important. And you could see them growing, and that they weren't always going to be last in line. And some of them were interviewed by the Auckland Star, some of them had their photo in the papers, etc., etc. And that was, quite an achievement on their part.
You were recently requested an interview with left-wing commentator Chris Trotter, who has been publicly equating your policies as finance minister with neoliberalism for nearly 30 years. Curiously, when you met face-to-face, Mr. Trotter did not appear to discuss neoliberalism with you. Neoliberalism posits that people are basically driven by self-interest and that altruism should be restricted to loving those closest to us and not wasting our affections. Conversely, your philosophy seems to be about the best way to deliver core services by labor governments, education, health, jobs, and welfare, as well as protecting society's poorest. Is Rojanomics neoliberalism or delivery of the Labour Party's social democratic principles?
Chris Trotter, probably during the 70s, was one of the biggest critics of what we did as a government at that time. I can remember going to the Dunedin University, and I think he was there organising a demonstration against us. This was in the 1990s, sorry, when we were forming ACT, and it was the Consumers and Taxpayers Association agenda, and he had organised a banner which said crooks and thieves, and they walked up and down the theatre aisles disrupting the meeting. But that's a side issue. Look, I think the thing about so-called Rojanomics, it's all about creating an environment where people can thrive and grow. The ability, I think, to make your own decisions is fundamental to it, rather than have a government make those decisions for you. At the present time in New Zealand, it's been the case for almost 80 years. The government tells you which schools you can go to. and things of that nature. The government tells you whether you can have an operation or not. And Rogernomics, if you like, is all about creating an environment where people are able to get these services or purchase these services from the money they've been able to save. In other words, what one does, reduce the taxes and leave it with people so they can do their own thing.
You are best known for being a Labour Party cabinet minister, yet are also the founder of ACT Party, which the Labour Party is unlikely to ever form a coalition government with. ACT Party is Association of Consumers and Taxpayers Party, a former Labour MP who also formed a new party that did go into coalition with the Labour government, said, "I never left the Labour Party. It left me." Is your situation similar in that you celebrated the 20th anniversary of the election of the iconic fourth Labour Party of which you were finance minister?
Absolutely. I think I would argue that they did leave me. I think just it's fair to say that the goals of the Labour government during the 70s were essentially along the same lines as the ACT, the association which we created. And it, you know, for whatever reason, the Labour Party has got back to the stage where they want big institutions. They want only one organisation to control New Zealand's water, only one organisation under their basic control to control health or education. And the result is you have a sameness, and you certainly don't have any real productivity. And what ACT believed was that people should have choice, people should be able to buy their education in a marketplace where there is competition and freedom. And the same in the area of health, that they can choose their own doctor and have that flexibility to move forward.
The late Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, transformed Singapore from being a third world country to a nation with the fourth highest per capita GDP in the world within a generation. In the second volume of his autobiography, he credited your reforms. Other people have called for an adapted version of Rogernomics in other countries. How do you see New Zealand's position in the world in view of the reactions to your own ideas and policies?
Well, I think if you think about any country, well, I mean, Singapore is a leader. I mean, they were a lot poorer than New Zealand in the 1950s and 60s. And today, on a per capita basis, are a lot richer than New Zealand. And really, if you think about it, all due to Lee Kuan Yew, who's an amazing individual. I think it's fair to say that if you're a small country and you want to do well in the world, then you have to put in place quality policies. And the thing about quality policies is that only quality policies will work. If you stop short, if you discount what you know to be quality policy and put in other changes which are less than quality, you pay the price. Because at the end of the day, it never delivers what people want or need or entitled to. And I think, particularly in the welfare area, New Zealand fell short. We did a lot of reform in the economic and financial areas, and I'm proud of that. But the truth is that we fell short when it came to welfare, to education, to health, to housing, and these areas. And the result is that for the last 20 years, we probably stood still, if some people would say we started to go backwards.
Absolutely, Sir Roger. When you talk about policies, it has to be quality policies.
Look, I think it's really important that you tell people the truth of the situation as you see it. The trouble is that we have politicians throughout the world who tell people, who do polling, and they find out what people are thinking, and then they feed it back to them and promise them things that really are not going to fix the problem, but might make a short-term impact on them, and they might get their vote.
Right, right.
The truth, telling people the truth is pretty important.
Absolutely. Now, in April 2020, you co-authored In a New World, New Thinking is Required. Why the prioritization of resources is crucial to New Zealand's economic recovery in the wake of COVID-19, with Professor Robert McCulloch. The paper calls for the assistance of those most in need, the elimination of privilege, and the ending of waste. Would you say that that's a stance that you have always held before you came to prominence?
Absolutely. People used to say to me or ask questions around, not just in New Zealand, but sometimes around the world, how could you do X, Y, and Z? You're supposed to be a Labor government, a socialist Labor government. And I said, look, it's easy. All we did as a Labor government was to eliminate privilege. And how can you be opposed to the elimination of privilege? If you are, it really means that you're supporting that privilege. And in many cases, if you look at issues in whatever country you like, the essence of reform in the country is the elimination of the privileges that exist, because that gives you the resources that you need to help those who fundamentally need that help. So, yes, I'm all for the elimination of privilege. We did it in the 70s. In the 2020, right now, we need to eliminate privileges that exist in the social welfare area. If we did this, New Zealand would stride ahead again as we did in the 90s.
Wow, amazing. Yeah. I read with interest that you are seen as the author of the most successful economic reform of the 20th century by the Liberal Institute, a Czech think tank co-founded by the late Thomas Zizek. That is quite the accolade in a country where politicians experience Nazism and communism firsthand. What is your takeaway for New Zealand and beyond from your meeting with the Liberal Institute in 1998?
Well, I think I'd probably go back to, in part, an answer I've already given you. Only quality policies actually work. And I think that right from the start, day one, we decided that we would do what we believed was right. And quite often people know what is right. It's just that they're not brave enough to do it. And when you think about it, it possibly come to another question, but you've got to ask yourself, why am I in politics? Am I really in politics to make me feel good and proud and I'm somebody, or are you there to actually help people? And if you're actually there to help people, you have to start to tell them about the truth of the situation that the country faces and stop telling them what they want to hear. Because quite often they might want to hear something, but it's not going to help them. The only thing that will help them is to do what is needed.
Right, right. But unfortunately, these days, it's everywhere. It is the scene that people are doing things they can portray they are good or they are doing great, but in reality, they are not doing what actually they are supposed to do.
They make promises which they can't possibly deliver. And what's the point, I ask, of being in politics, to being in government for 20 years, if you don't use that wisely? What are you going to look back on? And I think the only thing that's worth looking back on is if you accomplished something that needed to be done.
Your philosophies are great. I wish all the politicians, would follow the same philosophy, like, understanding the same way. Then the world would be totally different.
They'd be actually like my group of youngsters, the 14-year-olds, that have a sense of achievement if they did that, rather than a sense of, well, what am I here for?
Staying with the Czech Republic, the late Václav Havel was propelled to the presidency of that country, becoming a human rights icon after standing up for a misunderstood rock band and leading a citizens' initiative called Charter 77. When Havel was characterized as an apolitical politician, I thought of parallels between you and him, more driven by convictions and seeing them lived out than public office in itself. Is there substance in that perception?
I'd like to think I was. There was. Look, to me, he was a genuine leader. He was someone with a lot of common sense. He knew what needed to be done, and he was brave enough to actually say it. So he was someone who, the sort of leader that the world needs, frankly, because I heard him speak on a number of occasions, and it really did. I don't think I disagreed with him. I might have placed an emphasis sometimes in a slightly different area, but then he would have done that to me as well. But no, he was a great leader, and it's a pity that we don't have more politicians like him, frankly.
Most countries in the world would do better with long-lasting structural reforms, with periodical revisions. However, politicians and ministers worldwide tend to prefer stability of government and status quo of political power over permanent well-being of citizens and development of nations. What are any government's moral responsibilities towards structural reforms, especially if they are long pending and require immediate action? What should the citizens do if they understand that structural reforms are being denied to them only because of lack of political will?
Well, I should vote them out, shouldn't they? Unfortunately, if you look on a worldwide basis, we have this in New Zealand. The vast majority of politicians want to make people dependent upon them. And so they introduce policies which mean that a lot of people have to rely on those policies which the government is delivering to live, rather than give the money or the resources to people so they can do it for themselves. The government wants to deliver it because it's dependent. It makes people dependent upon them. And what the politicians know, if a person is dependent upon them for their food or whatever, then they're more likely to vote for them. And it's a terrible thing. I don't know of anything you can do to another human being that's worse than making them dependent on you. And to me, it's disgraceful.
But that is what is happening these days. People do really need to understand, as you said, the quality policies and they really need to implement them in the right way.
Well, you want to, at the moment in New Zealand, just education. They say it's free, but people pay taxes and the government decides which schools you go. They say healthcare is free, but the truth is that the government decides whether you whether you'll get an operation or not. Now, why don't we take that money, give it to people and allow them to buy their own education or buy their healthcare if from whatever provider they believe is best for them. We can do that. We've got the money. It's just that the government wants to hold on to it, and the government wants to make people dependent on them. And why do they do that? Power. They do it in one word, so they have the power and people have to vote for them to get a continuation of a service that they should, if they didn't have to pay such high taxes, they'd be able to do for themselves.
So well said that the government wants people to be dependent. That is the reason.
It's about dependency.
Right.
Disgraceful.
Right. Thank you very much for your answer.
Pleasure.
You were the Minister of Finance in the 4th Labour government in New Zealand from 1984 to 1989. Mr. David Russell Longi was the Prime Minister. You had 2 senior ministers as Associate Finance Ministers, Mr. David Kegel, who was also Minister of Trade and Industry, and Mr. Richard Prebble, who was also Minister of Transport. The 3 of you together were famously known as the Treasury Troika or the Troika. As an introduction to my question, I would recreate in brief the situation in 1984. First, there was 20% devaluation of the New Zealand dollar. Then the announcement of snap reductions anticipated further substantial devaluation. It was a time of unsettled political climate and currency crisis. The government of Mr. David Russell Longi badly needed to fall back on an economic philosophy, and it was only you who had thought through the economic issues and had solutions, guts, and the stamina to act, and not only recover from the crisis, but also to change the destiny of New Zealand for good and inspire the world. Please share some incidents of challenges and triumphs when you were the Minister of Finance.
I think the most important thing we did as a cabinet was to decide that we would do what we believed was right for New Zealand. And we would let the chips fall. We believed that deep down, or I did at least, that we could not win unless we were prepared to lose. So we wouldn't necessarily play it safe. And so we acted in that regard. I think, you know, we had 2 historians in our cabinet, and they weren't sure that with the policies we were going to implement, we could win at the next election. It proved that that wasn't right. But I think the point I'm making, that even though a couple of our learned gentlemen with the benefit of history on their side said it was unlikely we could win, we were prepared to do what we thought was right in order to win. So that's essentially how we went about it. And I think it gives you a lot of freedom. Once you've decided that you're prepared to do what's right, even if it costs you the government, then you can make decisions that you wouldn't possibly otherwise make. If you've got foremost in your mind the issue, how will this impact my popularity, then forget it. you're probably not going to do very much and you'll lose anyway. What we did what we believed was right and put ourselves in the hands of the public, the voter, and their judgment. And fortunately, deep down, they knew that what we were doing was for the good of the country and therefore were prepared to go along with it. And that's why we won as so well in 1987.
That was quite bold of decisions you guys took.
I could tell a couple of stories, but deep down, that is a really important decision to say, as a group of people, we're going to do what we believe is right. Not necessarily what is popular, but what we know is good for the country.
Absolutely. Very few people think
And
that
it gives
way.
you a lot of freedom too.
Right. On 18th February 2011, you announced that you would retire at the end of the 49th New Zealand Parliament. Subsequently, on 29th September 2011, you delivered your valedictory speech in Parliament. You are 84 years old now. You have lived an active life of nation building, where people of New Zealand and in other countries look up to you and wish they had the same courage, vision, and doggedness with which you lived your life. When you look back, how do you see Sir Roger Douglas?
I think I was lucky. If I had an ability, it was to get good people around me. I never wanted to know what people's politics were. It didn't matter to me. All I was interested in the people who worked for me or and supported me was could they do the job? And in that regard, I was really lucky. I think I knew my strengths. I also knew my shortcomings and the areas where I had a lack of knowledge or didn't have a broad enough knowledge, and I'd take steps to do something about that. And you know, that helped. If you think you know it all, then forget it. You probably know very little. One of the most important things is to know what you don't know.
Right.
And to get people on side helping with those areas. And so I look back, I say I was lucky, I had an opportunity, I did the best I could. What more can you do?
Amazing.
Well, vote in politicians who stop thinking only of themselves and think of the people they're there to serve. Well, I mean, I'm proud of some of the things we achieved. I think certainly in some areas of government, we took the tough decisions and the outcomes for people were good.
Great, great. Today, the economy of New Zealand is a highly developed free market economy. It is the 50th largest national economy in the world when measured by nominal gross domestic product, GDP, and the 63rd largest in the world when measured by purchasing power parity, PPP. You gave a new direction to the economy of New Zealand during your financial leadership. At the end of 1983, you had prepared a caucus paper called the Economic Policy Package, which called for a market-led restructuring of the economy. You not only offered a steely backbone to the economy of New Zealand at the time of crisis, but also created a foundation which helped New Zealand grow consistently to become a formidable economic power. How do you see New Zealand doing in the future, in the next decade or two?
Well, it's an open question. I think New Zealand faces some very difficult decisions in the area of welfare, in particular in areas of pensions and in healthcare, and I must say housing probably as well. But the problem for us is that we have an aging population. So the cost of providing for those New Zealanders who are retired, old like me, is growing rapidly. And we haven't provided for that. And the pay-as-you-go system that we have in New Zealand to look after welfare just won't cope. And if we stay on the same trend on the current course, we could well go broke. But if we change, we could lead the world. And I'm hoping to publish a book early in the new year saying to New Zealanders, this is what we should be doing in the welfare area.
Lovely. Lovely. All the best for the book. I mean, I just got to know
Thank you.
that yeah, it's processing.
I'll send you a copy.
Oh, you definitely.
Oh, no.
You know, we'll be honored. Thank you so much. We'll be honored. And yeah, and definitely we would be sending our magazine to you, World Growth Forum's magazine
Thank
to
you.
you. Last but not the least, please share your advice or message for the finance ministers of other countries as a man of wisdom who has seen, understood, and done almost everything. Please also share a message for the youth and people who aspire to lead the world in the future, who might pick threads of inspiration from your life story and weave their own success stories later in their lives.
Well, if I talk about politicians, existing finance ministers, etc., to me, this is simple. There's only one question. Ask yourself why you're in politics. Are you in politics for the supposed glory, for the power, or what have you? If you are, you're basically wasting your time. Or are you there to do something in the interest of the country? If that's what you're about, get on with it and good luck.
How wonderful. You keep all kinds of novel thoughts.
For young people, well, I'm not sure I'd necessarily recommend to people that they get into politics, but if you're going in, go in with the intention to do what you know is right. And too many people go in with only one objective. Well, obviously you've got to get elected, but it's all about power. And in the end of the day, I think it was Thomas Sowell who said, if you want to help people, tell them the truth. If you want to help yourself, then tell them what they want to hear. Well, he didn't actually recommend that, but he said that's what too many people do. Tell them, if you want to help the country and the people, tell them the truth. If you want to help yourself, then you tell them what they want to hear. And it seemed to me, to sum up, politicians, not too bad.
Really great advice. Really great advice. Thank you so much. People would really take inspiration from your sayings and advice. Sir Roger, it was an honor talking to you. I had a great experience talking to you. What you have shared during your conversation is a gem for the entire world. All of us here at World Growth Forum's team wish you the best in life. We look forward to a great association with you in future through our various platforms, through our magazines, our video interviews, and we also hold World Growth Forum's global business and investment forums. Definitely, we would invite you, personally to come over there and definitely to meet you. So we look forward to a greater association with you. Thank you very much for talking to World Growth Forums.
Well, thank you very much, and all the best.
Thank you, Sir Roger. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sir Roger Douglas, for a detailed discussion on New Zealand economy, and your policies and philosophies. Now, I would like to present to you my question answer session with Mr. Kushil Gunasekara, which we recorded earlier. Mr. Kushil Gunasekara is the founder and chief trustee of Foundation of Goodness in Sri Lanka. Today, we have Kushil Gunasekara with us. He is from Sri Lanka. He is the founder of one of the noblest organizations in Sri Lanka, committed to humanitarian efforts, Foundation of Goodness. Kushil is a philanthropist and has changed the face of rural Sri Lanka by spreading hope and smiles to millions of needy and poor people. We will explore Kushil's personal and professional passions, his deeply moving and highly impactful and rewarding thoughts and philosophies, and the promises he holds in his heart for himself and countless others out there in the world, all through a session of questions and answers. Hello, Kushil. How are you?
Hi, pleased to meet you indeed.
Yes, same here.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's start with the questions straight.
Yeah.
I would try to paint a canvas for our viewers with several bright and inspiring colors of your highly impactful and highly inspirational life. You never know, someone in some corner of the world may be waiting for a single ray of hope and inspiration to turn around or transform his or her life, and this interview may serve its purpose.
Yeah.
We believe that if we are able to improve even one human being's life, our purpose is served. If we are able to improve more lives, then God has chosen us for a greater purpose. Our viewers seek inspiration from personal challenges and triumphs too. So I would also, slightly touch upon your personal life and future aspirations.
Okay.
Yeah, let's start with the questions. In our highly materialistic world, ruled by cutthroat competition, where more possessions, expensive possessions, and quickest possessions are the only definitions of success, how do you see and define your life?
Well, Hasina, I think I always wanted to be a good human being. And I'm always trying to bridge this gap, being born human and ending up being humane. So that's the way I would define my, aspiration. I also wanted to be a nice human being. And as I went along, I thought I'll make it one of the nicest human beings that this world has ever seen. So I'm working towards that goal. So yeah, I'm always caring and sharing. I have, turned from competition to contribution. So that's because I, like you, touched on, corporate life and about competition and, where people are, very greedy about positions. So, and I've always thought this greed begets greed. It's like success breeds success. And I think, it's like a mirage, you follow greed and then never is enough. And when you get to the point, the mirage shifts the goalpost. So you have to actually work on your, I think mainly the values, so that's how I see myself being a very joyful, blissful person. I'm never unhappy, undisturbed. So, I know the true nature of things as they really are in life. So I'm really happy to do what I'm doing, uplifting the spirits of other people. So, and I'm thinking of equality. What I have, they must have too. So that's my desire. So I don't know how much I can achieve or bridge that gap, but our aim has always been to bridge this urban-rural divide as much as I can. So the journey has started, like 25 years ago, but now it's officially about 24. Next year, it will be the 25th year of the Foundation of Goodness. Yeah, so I think caring and sharing and, being good, doing good, becoming a very kind, nice, good person is all what I wanted to achieve.
Wow, really great. I wish everyone thought like you. No one needs to be a hardcore ascetic in order to lead a good life for themselves or, to set examples for others. A simple, disciplined life in order to create a balance between any kind of excess and any kind of deficiency would make all of us great human beings. However, maybe that's the way of life it meant to be. Human beings don't understand happiness without misery. They
Yeah.
wouldn't understand high consciousness without experiencing lowest form of consciousness. Maybe that's how the world is supposed to be and run.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is this, I think a lot of us are expecting people to change and we remain unchanged. That's the issue here. We don't look at ourselves, how to improve and strive for excellence, and how to take this journey for the good of ourselves and for the good of others. So unless we self assess ourselves on a daily basis, like how we have a probably clean ourselves externally, we never look into our mind as to how we have this envy, jealousy, hatred, all this greed and everything that goes in. We never try to take them out. So they keep piling inside you and you go from bad to worse. So you need to also look at yourself first, because you have to get this gross individual happiness, by yourself. You can't leave it to others. We criticize others, but we don't criticize ourselves to do a self-assessment. So if you do this as an exercise every day, then obviously you're going to be better than you used to be. That's the idea. So I think in life, you have to take a call about, good things are hard to do, right?
Right.
So I mean, it's if you say, let's say if you destroy your house, or if you like build a house, you will never have it in the front page. But if you break a house, you will have it in the front page, right?
Right.
So it's also like if you steal, then you'll have it in the front page of the print media. But if you're generous, if you're kind, if you have done a great deed, it's hard to get in there. So so I think there's less competition in that area, but people don't know. So they go with the flow. Many follow the flow. You have to be able to swim upstream. That is what matters the most. You have to do things differently. That's what it is. And I think for me, there has been no trigger to do good. There are a lot of people I have seen, which is great. I mean, if there is a cancer in the family, then they commit themselves for cancer. If there are kidney issues, they'll go there and do something for kidney patients. You don't really need a trigger.
Right.
So I think in all of us there are inherent good qualities in us. Let's say
Absolutely.
kindness, forgiveness, patience. So many things are there. So we can work on those. Hasina, you'll be surprised. I never studied. I failed. I failed to pass my high school. So, but I only played a lot of sports because I was mad about cricket.
Oh, all right.
So I played a lot of cricket, even first class. So,
wow.
But I just did sports, and my mother was really angry with me for not studying. But but I think it's just not studies alone. I started to evaluate what good qualities I have. So I put them together.
Absolutely.
And I followed them to the letter because I had to excel in something. So I thought I'll excel what qualities I have and how I can actually take it to another level.
That's great. Yeah.
That's what I worked on.
Yes.
Because I feel that, education is mandatory.
Right.
It can make you rich. It can make you resourceful.
Yes.
It can make you have great knowledge, but it cannot necessarily make you a happier person.
Right.
To become happy, you have to have values. If you don't have those values, you can't be a happy person. Have you seen so many qualified, people, when they are aging, they are unhappy, they are dissatisfied, they are discontent. So these are the issues they have to battle with. So if you know life ahead, and if you know what it actually, is out there, the true nature as it is, then you will begin to really look at all these areas and try and address them. You have to be a learned person, but at the same time, For example, I always say to people, intelligence is one thing, wisdom is another. You
Right.
know, intelligent people can also resort to unwholesome activities. But people who are wise have this fear and shame. So they will not resort to anything wrong because they'll fear, they'll have this shame. So there is a vast difference between being intelligent and wise. So if you're not wise and if you don't cultivate wisdom, then you can stray. So a lot of the people I see, yes, are qualified, to the extent, but if you're unkind, what is the point of your education if you're an unkind person?
Yes.
If you're selfish, if you're not caring, if you don't want to share,
Right.
if you don't have patience, if you're not humble. So I think all these characteristics are so important to shape one's life.
Right.
So, yeah, so that's what I always try to follow in terms of wanting to be a good person. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Great. Actually, see, ultimately, it's education. It doesn't necessarily need to come with some sort of certificates, through some sort of certificates. So education is something like which good values and stuff which you instill in yourself. So what you are just telling me that you failed in means
I mean,
the initial exams and all
yeah,
in the initial
I mean,
part of your life. But obviously, I mean, that's totally okay. At the
yeah.
end of the day, what kind of person you are, that's what makes you good or bad.
I'm not saying this because I didn't really study, but Hasina, I've seen a lot of people pass exams but fail their life.
Right.
So
No point then.
I mean, you have to have a balance, right? You
Right.
have to pass exams as well, and then you have to also be a happier person.
Right.
If you're not happy, people around you are not going to be happy.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
you have to love yourself first before you love others.
Right.
So you because if you love yourself, then you will have pleasant speech. You will be not harming anybody.
Right.
What does not please me, you won't inflict upon another. So you will, if you love yourself. So you have to first love yourself.
Right.
Then you treat other people as also with same respect.
Yes.
That's the key.
Yes. So if I start speaking on goodness in life, in the real sense of being humans and in philosophical connotations, I'm sure I would be speaking for hours explaining, invoking, justifying, and calling for the extreme need of goodness in communities, societies, nations, and the entire world.
Yeah.
It's that important. At the same time, I'm also absolutely sure that inherently good human beings need not be even asked to do good in their lives.
Yeah.
They would do it naturally, just like you.
Yeah.
Everyone in this world must understand that it's not easy what you are doing. Probably you had other choices. And if you are doing it, you are one of the noblest men on earth. You are the man who has been living goodness, spreading goodness, and infecting all with the noble notion of goodness in their and others' lives. You founded Foundation of Goodness in 1999. It couldn't have been possible without an inherent foundation of goodness within you. What prompted you to turn towards goodness? What all goodness have you been able to spread through your foundation since its inception in Sri Lanka and beyond?
So I'm really humbled by your very kind sentiments. I'm actually I'm a bit speechless because I don't want to speak about myself too much. So, but all I can tell you from my younger days, I saw this inequality, and I came into the city from a village. But when I went back from the city to the village, I realized that unfortunately there's this big gap, the disparity. So it was huge, and that intrigued me a lot as to why some are really prospering and the others are not. But they had equal mindsets. They were clever people, very talented. They had, the skill set. They had the talent, but they just didn't have the opportunity. They didn't have, the facilities, the training, nor the exposure. So when I started to realize that, I felt I'm going to actually come back to my village, and then also try and do something to impact the lives of others who are having this innate talent but not having the opportunity. So and that's what inspired me, because I think I think I had a lot of compassion and kindness, that when I saw somebody struggling, I wanted to reach out, because I think seeing the plight of others defines compassion. And it's easy for someone to be able to, help if you're asked, but helping others unasked, is actually the kind of compassion that you want to basically get into. So, I started the Foundation of Goodness in 1999 because I wanted to make that, I want to make something happen for the good of other people who are, downtrodden or underserved or marginalized communities. So I decided in 1999 that I'm going to go back to my village. I had a successful business at the time, trading sugar. So I could easily set aside my resources and, everything begins small. Nothing ever great is achieved without taking that one step at a time. And then, you keep going, and kindness kind of multiplies in abundance, So, and kindness is something that is never out of fashion. So, if you have kindness, then there's a lot of kindness that is attracting you as well. So I think, I wanted to make a difference in my village. I wanted my village and the 2 adjoining villages to succeed. So I promised myself I'm going to commit to uplift these 3 villages. That's how I started. But never did I comprehend ever that, today we are in 975 villages. Last year we served 307,000 plus people as beneficiaries. So the key here is doing something with purity of intentions. That's the most important thing. Nothing expected in return. The purity of intentions. You actually go without any agendas. You do it unconditionally, without conditions. And then peace also begins to flourish because you don't expect anything in return. So, I mean, yeah, these are some of the things that, and as I said, people don't really understand that there are lots of blessings in abundance that accrue to you. When you put something into the universe, it parks itself and gives it back to you at the time you need it. Just imagine my plight. I'm like, for the last 15 years, I have to raise $1 million every year. And I'm still smiling and, not being bothered. People are asking me, aren't you stressed out? You have to. I said, no, I'm doing something divine and I'm doing it correctly. My conscience is clear. So I think the universe has seen it and it keeps connecting me from all over the world, various people, including yourself. I wouldn't have been able to connect with you and your, prestigious World Growth Forum if I probably didn't do what I'm doing today. So I'm grateful, and that's what keeps me going. That's the fuel that's poured into my passion, and that keeps making me go, one step further.
Oh, awesome. Good man or humble? Even after doing magnificent, noble things on such a great skill and such high levels, and on such high level, your humility makes you even nobler than what people generally see. It's good to see and spread the word around the world, all that the Foundation of Goodness is doing under your insightful guidance. I'm young and I'm sure a lot is waiting to come my way that would enhance my learning and understanding more, driving me towards more goodness and more positivity. I'm sure the world deserves better and people, if people like you have dedicated their lives to spread goodness, more and more people would try to be good and do better. So thank you for that wonderful answer.
No, and I also think that you mentioned about humility. I think that's a very, very important quality in one's life. I think it reminded me of a doormat. However much people, rub their feet on that doormat, it stays firm, doesn't get disturbed. So it's like that. You have to be like the doormat. No matter who tramples you, you remain the way you are. So that's what matters the most. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you for that very nice answer. Yeah, in the increasingly intense and unending stresses of today's modern life,
Yeah.
which is forcing all of us to be highly selfish and mean, being human is one of the biggest needs of every human being, to transform our world into a world of goodness. Forget serving others. We are not even serving ourselves in the right sense. We are cursing, torturing, and killing ourselves on a daily basis. And then, of course, the worst we feel in our body and mind. We make our others feel even worse by our words and deeds. We are simply a sorry lot of human beings, a sorry world. We are, entangled in complex circles and spheres of I would make you feel bad, you make someone else feel bad, someone else, will make someone else feel bad, and on and on. If every human being decides to serve others, wouldn't we be all serving each other? Isn't that the world we all want, consciously or subconsciously? Isn't that the world we all want, consciously or subconsciously? Isn't my happiness related to yours? Isn't everyone else's happiness related to everyone else's? Wouldn't all of us be happy together if all of us start serving others? Aren't we all here for the same purpose? Have you found the real meaning of life? Have you found the real meaning of being human? How can you dedicate your life to serving humanity?
I think, whilst you were saying a lot about these areas, which has a lot of negativity and toxic kind of background, what I really feel is that each one has to cultivate peace. That is the key. And today, I think inner peace is the new wealth. So in a chaotic world, if you can't work out your peaceable, I think inheritance, that's a lost cause, because at the end of your life, you want to live a very peaceful life, right? So you want to negotiate to live a life of clarity, peace, serenity, tranquility, and be calm. That's what matters the most. So I don't know. I felt that ego here is one of the most destructive nuclear weapons that we can ever see. It's one's ego. It's not the nuclear bombs or nuclear power that one country has over the other. It's one's ego that triggers the nuclear bomb. So ego is a very destructive trait that we have. So the opposite of ego is what we talked about, is humility. So we have to be able to attain that peace into our lives. That is what, so if you have that peace into you, you will be thinking non-harm to oneself and non-harm to the other. What does not please me, how can I inflict upon another, which I spoke earlier as well. So those are the things that the more I gave, trust me, the more was mine to give. So the more I started to share, the more I had on my own to share. The more I cared for others, the more I could care for others. So that's the story. So if you are also, like I said before, if you look at your own self And if you put this jigsaw puzzle together, fix the pieces, then you can lead by example. People around you are amenable, very amicable. You're a peace-loving citizen. So things come following you. So that's what I think we need to do in this world. We can't probably change the world, but we can be changing agents. So we can show the world this is the way to go. There's a saying, greatness is not found in possessions, power, prestige, or wealth, rather in service, humility, character, and goodness. So yeah, so these are the things that one needs to cultivate in ourselves, but without blaming others. Our job whole life, as I said, is blaming others. But you have to first blame yourself for what you have done and what you have not done well, and what you have done well, you have to make it happen more. What you have not done well, then you can eliminate time and again by self reflection. So I think if you can get this ego part, why do people go to war? Because of an ego.
Right.
So I want to be the best. I want to be, when you can't even control yourself, how can you control another? For example, when you get a headache or when you get a stomach ache, I can't control myself, right? So I have to go to the doctor or I have to take medicine. But I can't just say, okay, headache, go away, or the stomach ache, please go away, my back ache. Go away, I can't. So when you can't control yourself, how on earth would you control someone else? You just can't. So you have to realize, look, if you think with reality, then I think you can make much better progress.
That's right. That's beautiful. You're absolutely right. There was a time when I was exploring how to make a difference in the world, and through my efforts, to create a better world in whatever small or big way I could, I was lost.
Right.
It was difficult to find the right direction and the right path. Finally, I just started in a small way what I knew and what I felt I could do in the best way. And here we are. I'm sure I'm on earth for a purpose, and I'm contributing to my purpose by doing what I'm doing. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying so many aspects. I pray all human beings start being human, and together let's all enhance as much positivity in the world as possible, while eliminating as much negativity as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's us who can change ourselves. It's not about trying to change other people. First, the effort is to change us,
Right.
and when we change ourselves, people around us also will try to do the same. So that's, as I said before, we try to remain unchanged, and we want to change someone else.
Right.
So that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Before I move further, pardon me for my style of asking questions. I just include all aspects of a question into one. So you may be able to answer in entirety, missing minimum of facts and aspects. You don't have to answer the way I am asking, but please try to answer as comprehensively and as deeply as possible.
Right.
Your passion to serve others makes you different. Your own foundation of goodness makes you different. Your renunciation of materialism makes you different. Every act of your kindness and every thought of your goodness makes you different. How did you evolve into the Kushil Gunasekara we see today? What transformed you? What are your thoughts and philosophies? What were your thoughts and philosophies when you were growing up? What do you generally do in a day? What keeps you busy? What makes you get up and spread goodness in life?
Yeah, there's a whole lot of questions to answer. I even forgot from what you said at the beginning to the end, but some of the gist that I picked up is, I think, a good human being necessarily must have kindness and compassion. That is very important, and a very peaceable person, easy to talk to, just not get angry, asserting the truth, giving even if you have little to give, these are the things that inspires me. As I said, giving unasked. It's easy to give when somebody asks you, but giving unasked. Seeing somebody in trouble on the road, stopping and saying, I wish, you a blessed life, and, here's loving kindness, and what can I do for you, and do it the way I can. It's not to wait for the right time and say, I am poor, so therefore I can't help another person. You can go and talk, you can smile, you can, have a comforting word or two. So these are the things that, my life has evolved, Hasina, because I took little steps towards this aspiration. And you have no idea how unexpectedly and mysteriously things started to gather around me. I was, my mother told me that at the age of 10, that when I was eating, when somebody knocked at our, gate and wanted a plate of rice, I wanted to actually go and give it to that person. So my mother was pretty worried that, I wouldn't eat, and she went and gave him a plate of rice. But, so seeing others' misery, struggles and hardships, I am broken up. I am awake then, I'm aware. So that has helped me evolve to who I am today. Because as I keep going, I never thought, people will rally around me, come together, work hard. And, serving humanity is also a particular art. It's a way of life. It's like being an engineer or an accountant or a doctor or scientist, whatever. You have to have a passion. And your passion cannot be copied. You can copy the work, you can copy one style, but you cannot copy your passion. So if you have that passion, every day I wake up, I'm waking up to help somebody. So, my I think Swan is on this Zoom call as well. And she's our head of communications, and she knows how many calls I get for a day. I have about 200 WhatsApp messages every day, so I have to juggle around my life somehow. But, the key is both sides. The donors from one side, the beneficiaries from another side. So, and matching them and facilitating to make both parties happy is really blissful and hard to describe the feeling that you have, the feel good factor. So, every day when I have, open my mail, there is someone saying, Kushil, can we do this? I have this resources that I can help you with, not necessarily monetarily, but even somebody will say, I'm very good at coding. And someone will say, I'm very good at planetary health. Someone will say agri-entrepreneurship. Someone says STEM education. So I say, come, let's go. Let's do it. So it's a positive, vibes and the energy that you bring. And I've always thought that, this 10 most powerful 2-letter words. And that is, if it is to be, it is up to me. The 10 most powerful 2-letter words that I ever learned. If it is to be, it is up to me. So, it's me, when I get these chances, one thing, Hasina, I've never say no and can't. My staff and my colleagues and my associates are always, very worried, thinking where we are going, what will be the end goal, because whatever that comes my way, I say, let's do it. I'm sure we can find a way. So that has also attracted, us to be who we are today. So it's not a journey that, came to me. I remember when I was like 24, 25 years ago, I used to dream of Oprah. I used to see her, all the TV shows, her talk shows, and get mesmerized by her generosity and her spirit of, wanting to care and share. But suddenly, the rise and the fall both came from a very unprecedented tragic tsunami. It hit us badly to put all that we had done right to the ground. and, and then said, build back better. And that journey is far superior because step by step, it's not getting whole lot of things at once and saying, now you do it, then you can be complacent. But here, you go from grassroots level, step by step, understanding everyone's difficulty along the way. So I think that has given me a sense of purpose and a meaningful life, to be content with what I have. People are always, the brightest of people have always been content, with what they had, so they didn't say, okay, I need more and I want more. And there are people, but there is a limit because people don't understand that, everyone, there are a lot of poor people I've seen so content, so fulfilled, so peaceful. Whereas I've seen lots of wealthy friends of mine who are not happy, dissatisfied, discontent, and not, sometimes oriented in the right direction. They have too much headache. So you're talking about renunciation. That's one of the most important things, to let go. Letting go is getting more, not, grabbing everything and holding on. The less you have, the simpler life is. So that's what I think I can tell you with this question you asked so long.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you are doing a tremendous work. However, you make it sound so easy. Or of course, at your level of consciousness and inherent goodness, it becomes easy. Your story and your life are highly inspiring. The youth must listen to you, and especially those who are seeking directions to a fulfilling and meaningful life. I remember I had visited Jamia Hamdard University in New Delhi, India, and in the huge foyer, they have a huge board where the following are written, like, choose your direction carefully. If you are running, and if you are running in the wrong direction, you would go wrong faster.
Yeah.
So, and you speak so softly, yet every word makes a hard impact. You also speak so convincingly. Your goodness is infectious too. I wish more and more people try and become good human beings by imbibing your style and philosophy of life.
Yeah, I think goodness is the one investment that never fails, and I realized that a long time ago. So that's why I keep doing more and more good. I've sacrificed a lot of things. I mean, I sacrificed, gave up my job, which was very, very lucrative. I wanted to, do good for people because we live in a third world where the disparity is huge. So, I had to take this journey on. And I never ever imagined today, where we would be. But yeah, so here we are. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. We all grew listening from our parents and teachers that we must imbibe good values to be good human beings when we grow up. I don't know how many of us grow as good human beings by the time we are adults or by the time we reach old age, the age of reflections. I don't know how many of us desire to be good human beings and desire to live a different life when we know that we are left with only a few more years or a few days of our life. But we let our experiences and acts of others define our life in such a powerful way that instead of living our life, we end up forced to think, speak, and act in ways that we may not like or expect or dream when we were kids. Does the problem lie in our parents or teachers or system? Or are the goals of good values we are given not attractive enough or powerful enough to let us stick to them? Or are we making everything more complex and more difficult for nothing? What are good values? And what good values do you suggest we all must aspire and be inspired to pursue?
Yeah, I mean, I think people must understand that the day we are born is the day we get our death sentence. But we don't know how and when. So if you don't know how and when death strikes, you know, you have to be able to live today like your last day, right? So if you are living, if someone tells us that it is your last day, would you do anything bad? I don't think, right? You would want to do something good. So if you are aware that you have, because some, you know, if you take 100 years, there's always somebody who has died in the first year, second year, third year, fourth year, up to 100. So you don't know. You can die anytime. So we have to live today like our last day. Then you will be a good person, you know. So, and unfortunately, people leave it till very late. You know, they'll give some excuse or the other. You know, either, you know, my kids are going to school, so I have to see to their studies. Then comes the grandkids, and then they get involved with that. Then it's too late. So then your faculties are very frail. So then you can't do the goodness that you wanted to do in that kind of background. You know, you need to be doing good every single day. I know people get caught up in their corporate life, you know, and they compete and compete and compete. But they also need to realize we need to contribute as well. You know, contribution brings a lot of peace, you know, a lot of joy, a lot of happiness, you know, a lot of bliss. So I think it's very important for them to realize that this life of ours is so brittle. The other day I was reading that, you know, when Turkey was struck by that very unfortunate earthquake, there is a gentleman who owned 33 buildings, 33 sky-rise buildings. And it took only 17 seconds to make him homeless, crying on the road with 2 loaves of bread. That's all he had. But he had 33 buildings, 17 seconds, you know. So that's how, you know, so brittle, is so fragile this life is. So we need to be reminding these things, you know. You know, tomorrow you can be powerful today, but you can be, you know, not so powerful tomorrow. So you need to do good things with your power. You know, you can't do it for, you know, my own gain, or, you know, for the gain of my family or whatever. But we are a world, you know, where a family is sitting around everywhere, you know. So we need to go and reach out to them and, you know, do the best we can. I mean, coming back to values, I think it's also important parents impart, because parents are the first teachers, right? So the children follow the parents. If children see the parents are getting angry, you know, having a lot of hatred, a lot of jealousy, a lot of envy, then the children also have a way of picking these things up, you know. So they also cultivate these bad traits. Then comes the teachers. The teachers are the role models for the kids. They look at you, you know. So I mean, I remember when I was growing up, I used to look at my own parents and my teachers, you know. So I picked up a lot of good things from them, you know, and started to follow them, you know. So that's the way I think you have to, you know, work out your life. You can't leave it till too late, because, you know, you can die anytime and you haven't done any good. But your intention was there, but you couldn't deliver.
Absolutely.
And also, I think you asked about good values. What I would suggest, you must all aspire to achieve and inspire. I think in my opinion, there is generosity, there is kindness, there is compassion, there is gratitude, there is humility, there is forgiveness, there is patience, helping others, you know, discipline, you know. So many different aspects. Now, those are the very qualities that I pursue to get that human degree.
Great. Thank you so much for this wonderful answer. And yes, good values do help, you know, all human beings of all ages.
Yeah, and that's the only way you can be happy, Hasina. I mean, you can be grumpy, your moods can change, all that. But when you know the life's reality, then you bring back yourself and say, okay, it does happen. These things also have an expiry date. Good times expire, bad times expire. So you
Right.
hang in there. Nothing is forever. So you have to know that everything is subject to change. When the tsunami struck, I had 30 feet of water, 10 meters, waves coming at us. I was there myself.
Oh.
So managed to save us. But probably I had a journey to take. And everything was in ruin, debris, and rubble in just a few minutes. So these are the things that people need to be aware. You can be the top level today. You can probably go down 17 seconds, right? 33
Right.
buildings. So that's how we have to assess our life.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. There is something that has intrigued me and which I wanted to include in this interview. Is Muthiah Muralitharan a childhood friend? Is cricket your childhood passion? How did you meet Muthiah Muralitharan? And how did you accept being his manager? How are you associated with cricket and so many national and international cricket celebrities?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question. He's very much younger to me, so I was not his childhood friend. But I think we played for the same cricket club. But more than that, I was secretary of Sri Lankan cricket from the interim committee, not an elected body. I was chosen to play a role in shaping administration in cricket. And at that time, I was the secretary of the Under-19 Cricket World Cup. And Murali was also playing, in height of his career. And he is a very generous person. He's very kind-hearted. He is very sensitive to the needs of others. So when he saw me, what I was doing in my village, he came one day and said, I would like to do what you're doing. And can we join hands? And I was inside me waiting for that kind of, pledge from him. So I said, let's do this together. And I'm very happy. And then he also was the first ever sportsman to appoint, manager in Sri Lanka. And I was blessed to inherit that, probably that award or recognition or whatever. So, and he said, I want you to be my manager. So, and now it's over 20 odd years and we still have remained, intact. And sometimes, managers part, coaches part, and he was a Tamil and I was a Sinhalese. So this also gave us a lot of reconciliation effort that we both put together. And in the Foundation of Goodness, we worked very hard. And with his standing and worldwide stature and fame, he also attracted a lot of celebrities. And I think because we were doing this very well with one cricketer and because of my cricket background as well, lots of the others joined. So it's been a wonderful journey. It's been remarkable working with him. He's, as I said, he's really, really helpful when it comes to, helping poor people, rise and become independent. I mean, he's sponsored. We have many village heartbeat empowerment centers around the country. He and his brothers and the company together have sponsored 4 village heartbeat empowerment centers in the tea estate communities. So who are really downtrodden. So I salute him for his charitable work. And we have had a very, very special journey together. And I'm still considered, like his manager time and again. And he's also actually giving back a lot to the Foundation of Goodness through his engagements, whether it's endorsement, whether it's question and answer session, whether it's coaching, various ways in which he's approached. For appearances, he gives it back to the Foundation of Goodness. So it's been a terrific journey with him. Yeah. Thank you.
Wow. I'm not a passionate follower of cricket, though my mother is. Cricket is religion for her. My cousin is mad after Marwan Atapattu. So
Yes. Okay.
there are several enthusiasts in my family who love and adore Sri Lankan cricketers.
Yeah.
I wanted to get some insights from you on cricket for them more than for my own personal interest.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, cricket is like a religion, in Sri Lanka as well. And I know how much India loves cricket and
Right.
how much we love the Indian,
Yeah.
cricket that they play plus the cricket we play.
Yeah.
It's always aligned. I mean, India is like our big brother. So, we play some very competitive cricket. But, you mentioned about Mavan Atapattu. He and I do the same school
Oh, wow.
as well. And yeah, I mean,
Okay.
all these cricketers, yeah, I mean, I think it's these guys who have put Sri Lanka also on the map, world map, because of their sterling, very exquisite performances. So I think you need to give them that credit for taking Sri Lanka and winning a World Cup, which is amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that answer. So what's the road ahead? What new initiatives you or Foundation of Goodness are working on?
Well, we have now 14 village heartbeat empowerment centers, in addition to the flagship venue that we have in my village. We have a flagship venue called the Center of Excellence. It's named after the donor who's looking after it, called OIOB from Australia. It was previously the Marylebone Cricket Club. Now it's the OIOB Center of Excellence, and then we have a sports academy as well. We could be one civil society organization that has a lot of sports profile in our activities. And then we have 14 other village heartbeat empowerment centers. And I think my goal by end of this year is to get to 20 village heartbeat empowerment centers, so that 20,000 can study different subjects at any given time free of cost. Yeah. So, and then also play sport. And I have also something that I'm working on. Sri Lanka has never won a gold medal at the Olympics. So I think by 2028, I'm trying to find a way how to win this elusive gold medal. So that's one of my aspirations. I don't know whether it will come to pass or this dream realized, but on my own, with the Foundation of Goodness infrastructure, we are working on having a plan towards this goal. And then number 3 is I want to leave a legacy behind, which we are again working on for children, to inculcate good values by introducing a children's goodness game. So because they are all playing, either shooting or accelerating fast cars or something like that. So I want to create a children's goodness game, so that you remember those days we used to play snakes and ladders. So you can go to 99 and you still come down from that snake, and then so good qualities take you up in life, and the bad qualities bring you down in life. So that's the we are experimenting something, how to teach kids when you do good things, how good comes back to you, and when you do bad things, how the bad things can affect your journey. So those are some of the things that I have in mind. So that's so. Then my last goal I have is I've already started something called the Good Life Institute. So the theme is to be better than I used to be. To be better than I used to be. So it's all about the mind management. The mind is your CEO. So if the CEO doesn't work properly, then the rest of the faculties also don't work in the same direction to become a happier person. So it's about mind management. It's about being better than I used to be. It's about also enhancing one's gross individual happiness. We need to enhance our gross individual happiness. So these are the things that I'm working on, and hopefully then my life might come to an end, so then I'm done. But at least I want to leave a legacy, because I think whatever we do for others, dies alone with us. But whatever we do for us, dies alone with us. and whatever we do for others remains immortal. Yeah, that's the story. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. All the best. All the best for all the noble goals that you have set. You know, we regularly receive the newsletter of Foundation of Goodness.
Yes.
We know what all the Foundation of Goodness has done in the past, and we all feel good in the heart about all you, your foundation, and everyone associated with the foundation have been doing, dedicating their lives to noble causes. We also understand that it's not easy, to do such work when even thinking about good of others is difficult for most human beings, and doing is absolutely extraordinary. What you guys have been doing, so it's really great.
Yeah, thanks very much. We are inspired day in, day out. I have a very good, I can't do it on my own. I have a very good team of directors, and then it flows down into others. So they also believe in the cause of serving humanity. So it's a great collective team effort, and we are enriching humanity as to the best of our ability. And it's giving us a lot of bliss at night. And it's very peaceful when we think and rejoice in advancing years that we did these things. It's just not to brag about ourselves, but to feel good when you see somebody on the road who comes and tells you, sir, you taught me this trade. Today I'm doing so well. And I said, yeah, great. Nothing is expected in return. Everything is unconditional. But all they have to do is to do community aid work, pay forward. That's it.
Great. Thank you. Youth in the world have the power to change evil to good. Old people have the wisdom to direct and drive the power of youth. Please share your message for youth and old people. There are weak and strong people in the world in various senses. Weak know where to make the effort, and strong are capable of making successful efforts. Please share your message for weak and strong people.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't think that, I know there are, we can classify them as weak and strong, but every time I had a disaster or adversity, I blossomed. Because when disaster strikes or when adversity strikes, people get depressed and think, okay, I'm done. These things come to me. But that's the time you put your best foot forward, right? So, and they also need to learn these 8 worldly conditions. If you don't learn these, then they can easily get depressed and sad and unhappy. And so they need to know that you can't avoid praise or blame, joy or sorrow, victory or defeat, gain or loss. It's going to get to you. No matter, even if you are the most powerful person in the world, you're going to get praise or blame. You're going to, you will have, joy or sorrow. You will have victory or defeat. You'll have gain or loss. So if you know this ahead, right? So then you can manage your expectations. But if you don't know these things ahead, then you can get shaken. You can get disturbed. So if you want to be equanimous and remain undisturbed, then you have to be able to understand these worldwide, worldly conditions, which is a phenomenon. So that's how it is. So, I mean, anyone, whether it's the youth or even the elderly, whatever we do, we have to do it with some systems, some standard, quality, with discipline, not compromise your ethics and integrity. You have to be highly principled. All this you have to be able to package this together. Then when you do this, you become a qualitative person. No shortcuts. You don't compromise with anything. You deliver the best outcome, and you wait for the good results. And then, attention to detail is the key. Whatever we do, we have to give attention to detail. Then only, it's not micromanaging, but making sure that, because word of mouth is very powerful. I'll tell you, the Foundation of Goodness has got more donations and donors alike from worldwide, because word of mouth. We can be on social media, we can do newsletters, we can, create websites, we can do all these things, but it's the word of mouth. Someone who donates to us will go and say, hey, work with the Foundation of Goodness, because they give you a feedback, they are on the ball, they don't delay to respond, so many things. So word of mouth is the best tool of marketing. So, and I think this is what, people have to learn, that challenges can bring the best in you and raise the bar. Every time that I have been challenged, I raise my bar, So I said, when I had adversity, whether it's, let's say, tsunami, or whether it's COVID, or whether it's economic strife, or our, internal conflict, every time, I said, I'm going to put my best foot forward. This is going to go away in at some point in time. So we'll create that path to succeed and flourish greatly. And last year, when people told me that due to the economic strife and COVID, impacting, you will never be able to do the kind of charity that you're doing. We did the best in terms of charity last year. And I can see the trend still continuing. So it's about believing in yourself, doing it right. If you do it right with, with your organizational skills, as I said about the standards and, doing it really well to the core, I think you leave the rest of the universe and you keep going. That's what it is. So it's about constantly believing in yourself and to be better than I used to be. That's the formula and the secret, Hasina. So yeah, I've taken a lot of your time, so thanks.
But I'm
much.
absolutely loving it. It's great talking to you. You are a man of great heart and wisdom. I wish maximum people to listen to, learn and understand what you are doing, and make efforts to be good human beings involved with noble causes. We all hear on a daily basis, we should be good human beings. We should do good to others. We should help others. We all try to be happy on a daily basis. Doing good to others is such a simple way to be happy and to evolve into a good human being. It's easy. All of us must try doing it.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm saying it's about making things happen. It's not about watching things happen or wonder what happened.
Right.
It's about doing it. It's learning in the classroom is one thing, doing research and theory is another, but translating that into action. We get mesmerized by people who speak beautifully, but there are plenty talkers, seldom doers. So we need people to do things, make things happen good for the people who are downtrodden, whom we have to lift up. How many are in India and in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, wherever, there are so many lacking these opportunities, but when you give it to them, they excel in life.
Right. Yeah. Kushil, thank you very much for this interview.
Thanks very much indeed as well.
Yeah. Talking to a man of wisdom always helps, enhancing my learning. And you have thrown light on several perspectives of life, which are so important for everyone. However, most of us so ignorantly and conveniently miss the deeper meaning of life, which may so simply, ease our journey. But we have ourselves made life and everything within it complex for nothing.
Yeah.
So I can understand so much more myself after after this conversation with you. It was a great experience talking to you personally.
I mean, thanks very much for those lovely sentiments. We live to learn, every day. I'm learning myself every day, something or the other, so good to be humble and, keep going as we can. And I can always say that, whatever we do, as I said, it dies alone with us, but, and no beauty shines brighter than that of a good heart,
Right.
Nothing applies so much as kindness. And doing a favor for someone who cannot repay that is true hallmark of a character. So And also you have created something called the World Growth Forum, and that itself for me, it gives that impression that I need to grow. So you have given us a forum to keep growing towards the better, to impact others' lives.
Wow, absolutely. Yeah, great.
Thanks very much. Yeah.
Yeah, personally, I and the entire team of World Growth Forums wish you the best in life. And I'm sure your way of life, your various initiatives and endeavors, and your passion to transform the world for better, for good, would always go a long way in inspiring a large part of the world. Thank you very much for talking to World Growth Forums.
Thanks
Good day
very
to you. Good day to you. Bye bye.
Likewise. Bye.
Thank you very much, Kushil, for a wonderful discussion. This brings us to the end of day one of Virtual WGF-GBIF. I thank all the keynote speakers of today and the participants of our question answer sessions. We look forward to more keynote speeches, a panel discussion, and exciting question answer sessions on day two of our Virtual WGF-GBIF. Thank you and bye for today.